Independent Black Media.
The views and opinions expressed by the guests, listeners, and hosts of any program on WURD Radio do not necessarily reflect those of ownership, management, or advertisers of this station.
Get up on out the bed, start to move your balls. And sick up a word and Solomon Jones. Word.
You better wake up now.
You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there. You can feel it.
Get up on out the bed and start to move your balls. And sick up a word and Solomon Jones.
You better wake up now.
Good morning. This is Solomon Jones on 900 AM, 96.1 FM, WURD. And I want to welcome you to another edition of Wake Up with Word. Well, the tensions over the killing of Walter Wallace Jr. in West Philadelphia continue. There was a curfew last night. There was still some tension, still some protests. We'll talk about that. But I want to talk about what's happening nationally because it looks to me like the more the president's son-in-law talks, the more insane he sounds. You'll remember recent reports that Jared Kushner said Trump can't want black people to succeed more than we want to succeed for ourselves. It was a play on the racist trope that black people are lazy and shiftless, that we don't want anything out of life, and that we deserve all of the racism that we get. Well, it turns out that Jared has been saying dumb stuff for a while now. We just didn't know it. Back in April, the president's son-in-law and senior advisor told Bob Woodward that the president had cut out the doctors and scientists advising him on the coronavirus pandemic, which at the time had already claimed more than 40,000 American lives. Kushner told Woodward that Trump was, quote, getting the country back from the doctors in what he called a negotiated settlement. Kushner also proclaimed that the U.S. was moving swiftly through the panic phase and pain phase, and that the country was at the beginning of the comeback phase. Well, the comeback phase has meant more than 225,000 people have died from this virus. It's meant that millions of Americans have lost their jobs. It's meant that the president's failed leadership has wrecked the entire country. We need a real comeback. And on November 3rd, we can get it. All we have to do is vote. We got a hot show for you today on Wake Up with Word. Attorney Kevin Mincy on protecting the rights of protesters during this latest uprising. Political commentator Jay McCalla on the political fallout from yet another police shooting. And Reginald Howard of Black Men Healed on brothers and mental health in the wake of the Walter Wallace tragedy. And as always, we've got you, our listeners, calling in at 215-634-8065. It's toll free, 1-866-361-0900. Hit us on Twitter and Instagram at onWURD, or you can hit me personally at Solomon Jones 1. Watch us on Facebook at onWURD. But first, it's the big three, the news stories you need to know to kick off your day right here on Wake Up with Word. Story number one, the police commissioner in Philadelphia said Wednesday that her department will release 911 tapes and footage from police body cameras in the near future in the shooting death of Walter Wallace Jr. after nights of protests that set off clashes with police and break-ins of stores on the other side of the city. The death of Walter Wallace Jr., who was fatally shot by police Monday after authorities say he ignored orders to drop a knife, came amid already heightened tensions in the battleground state of Pennsylvania just days before the election. City officials announced yesterday that they would enact a curfew in the city, and they did, from 9 p.m. last night until 6 a.m. this morning. Mayor Jim Kenney told reporters the Pennsylvania National Guard would also be deployed to help protect property and assist the police. The first troops were expected Friday and Saturday. Kenney said 23 officers were treated and released for injuries, often bruises, after objects were thrown at them during Tuesday's clashes. Police Commissioner Danielle Outlaw said officials would release the body cam footage and 911 tapes in that shooting. And so that is something that we are looking for imminently. She said that they are going to talk to the family of Walter Wallace first before they release that footage, before they release the 911 calls. That is what we want to see. We want to see the body cam footage. Specifically for me, I want to see exactly how much of a threat Walter Wallace was supposed to have been to these officers. In other words, how close was he to them? Was he running towards them? How fast was he moving? How quickly could he have gotten to them? And was he trying to stab them with the knife? That's what I want to see. And that's what I want to know. And I want to know what happened and what was said in those 911 calls. That makes a huge difference. Many of you know I used to be a police dispatcher some years ago. And it really does make a difference what you say in terms of the situation that you are dispatching the police to. Is it just a disturbance, right? Disturbance house? Is it a fight on the highway? Is it a 302, right? A person who is experiencing some mental health crisis. Did they say that in any of the calls? And did the police who went out there earlier in 2 earlier calls communicate to the next officers who were going there that you got a person there who might be a 302? And so we'll see. We'll see what happens in terms of what was said in those 911 calls. We'll see what happens in terms of what those videos show. But that, I believe, is what the people need to see. And then we can move forward from there. Story number 2, of course, that citywide curfew that took place last night just lifted this morning in the wake of the unrest that happened in this city over the last few days because of what happened with Walter Wallace. Pennsylvania State Police mounted patrol unit gathered in Center City while police officers lined up outside the 18th District headquarters to enforce the curfew. Governor Tom Wolf also signed a proclamation of disaster emergency for Philadelphia. Wolf's proclamation authorizes state agencies to use all available resources and personnel to help Philadelphia deal with the continued unrest. Over the last few days, hundreds of people have gathered to peacefully speak out against social injustice, but their voices are being drowned out by others who are taking advantage of this fragile time in their city to sow mayhem and discord. That's what Governor Wolf said. I don't know if I agree with that. I think that nobody's voice is being drowned out. Honestly, I think that people see what they want to see. I think that people take from it what they want to take from it. And I think that we know the difference between those who are from the community and who are protesting peacefully and those who are not from the community coming in our community, they white, right? Let's just say it, right? With hoodies and backpacks filled with power tools, incendiary devices, drills, bricks. Like, who's doing that? Stop and frisk them. Arrest them like you would do us, right? And so we just, I think, have to be wise about what we see. The police commissioner even alluded to it in some of her first remarks about it, that the people who are coming in, breaking the windows, starting the looting, that these people appear to be from a different demographic and not from the community. And so I think we need to really be able to differentiate between that. But at the same time, the folks who are from the community have to be wise, man. We got to be wise. Like, is it really worth all that to get a pair of sneakers out of Foot Locker? For real. You know what I mean? And the other thing that we have to acknowledge, and I said this yesterday, and I'm going to keep on saying it, we live in a city where people live in abject poverty, and ain't nobody doing nothing about it. We create more opportunities for the very people who are freezing us out of making money from the tax dollars that we put in. We put more money into the building trades. We put more money into policing. We put more money into some of these structures that are in place that in some ways serve to hold people down. So we got to figure out very quickly that there is a link between poverty and the behavior of people who feel hopeless. As Martin Luther King said, a riot is the voice of the unheard, which brings me to story number 3. With the election just days away, the shooting of Walter Wallace is a national story The New York Times reported that the encounter was captured, of course, on video that we all saw. It appeared on social media. Wallace is seen walking toward the police in the direction of the officers, who are backing away, aiming their guns at him, yelling for him to put the knife down. The officers then fire 14 rounds. After he fell to the ground, of course, his mother screams and rushes to the body. In the days since then, dozens have been arrested. Cars have been burned. 53 officers have been hurt. On Tuesday, Governor Tom Wolf called in the National Guard. On Wednesday, the city, of course, declared a 9 p.m. curfew. Now, this whole thing has become, of course, politicized because we're just days from the election. The White House blamed the, quote, liberal Democrats' war against the police, unquote, for the destruction that followed the protests, in keeping with President Trump's law and order pitch to suburban voters. Joe Biden and Senator Kamala Harris lamented Wallace's death and condemned the looting that followed, but added that none of this would be solved with a president who fanned the flames of division in our country. They talked to some people in the community, and they are saying some of the things that we are hearing on our airwaves. One comment in particular that I read in the New York Times, in a national paper, was from a brother named Khalif Rivers, who told the New York Times on Wednesday morning, look, I don't feel like I have a lot of power as an individual. And then he talked about the fact that he is still going to vote, but he added this: I don't know if this is me looking for something to hang on to, because no matter who is in office, these things still happen. And in my view, we can talk about voting until the cows come home. We can talk about participating in the process until the cows come home, but especially for our younger people who don't have the perspective of knowing what things were like 30 or 40 or 50 years ago. They only know what they've seen and what they've experienced, and that's okay. But in a world where so many other things change so quickly, where technology changes so quickly, right? Where fashion changes so quickly, where pop culture moves so quickly, where information can travel around the globe in a millisecond. When everything else around them is changing so quickly, and they look at police shootings of black people, racism in our institutions, lack of opportunity, lack of good educational systems, and they say, look, none of this has changed in my lifetime. Everything else is changing in seconds. Why is this not changing? And so for them, it's not the perspective of 50 and 60 years and, well, in 1960, all of us was in poverty. Now only a third of us in poverty. You know, all they see is that everything else is changing quickly. Why isn't this? And so we have to have some real conversations around what we need to do in order to make these things change. And I think protest has to be a part of it. And the protest has to be disruptive. I think voting has to be a part of it, but so does holding people accountable. We can no longer afford to take the position that, okay, I put you in office, you're supposed to solve all of my problems. That's not real. That's a fantasy. And guess what? When they go in office and don't speak for the people, don't stand for our liberation, don't stand up for us when these things happen, guess what? They got to go. These are the things that we really, I believe, need to be doing. We need to be taking a multifaceted approach. If that means lawsuits, guess what? Do that. If that means voting, guess what? Do that. If that means protesting, guess what? Do that. If that means holding folks accountable, targeting people and getting them out of office, guess what? Do that too. But it has to be all of those things. And for me, it breaks my heart to know that there are people in our community who don't have the perspective to know that, you know, things have changed in terms of racism, but because it is so entrenched, because this country was founded on white supremacy, that it's going to take a minute. So I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you around this election. It's coming up in just a few days. Many of us have already voted. I voted on Monday, but I want to hear from you. will this Walter Wallace shooting affect what happens in this election? Because the two things, you cannot unlink them. You cannot pretend that one is exclusive of the other. You cannot pretend that you know, well, this is one thing, but the election is something else. Nah, people are going out and voting right now. And right now you have people in political positions who are crafting their messages around what happened with Walter Wallace. I want to know what you think. Give us a call, 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. That is the number that you can call to get in on the conversation right here at WURD Radio. How will the Walter Wallace situation affect people's desire to vote? How's it affecting you? Give us a call, 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. That is the number that you can call to get in on the conversation right here at WURD Radio, and let us know where you are on these various things we are talking about on this morning's show. 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. Of course, you can also weigh in on Facebook at 4WURD. That's FORWURD, FORWURD. That is the number that you can call to get in on the conversation. That is the place where you can go on Facebook to watch as well as weigh in on what we are talking about on this morning's show. We are going to go to break. On the other side of this break, we are going to continue the show with your calls right here on WURD.
Now, a traffic update on WURD Radio.
Good morning. This report sponsored by CVS. Some rain falling, so watch for reduced speeds as you make your way southbound 95. Pretty jammed up from Coppin Avenue down through Bridge, through that construction. Jammed again from Betsy Ross through Girard. Northbound 95, not bad. Westbound Vine delays from 8th Street through Broadigan Parkway through the Schuylkill Expressway. Schuylkill eastbound Boulevard to Spring Garden, slow in the near jam. Vine Expressway through University. Westbound heavy University through 30th through that construction area. Blue Route 476 northbound north of the Schuylkill Expressway. You're going to find an accident there. Again, Blue Route northbound. Watch for crews there and expect delays. 55 northbound out of jam from Deptford into 42. CVS pharmacists have a proprietary search tool that analyzes ways to help lower your prescription costs. Come in or call today to get a free prescription savings review at CVS. Savings vary. Not all patients eligible for savings. Ask pharmacists for details. For more traffic information, log on to SIGAlert.com. Jim Bachman with your Philadelphia area traffic.
Remember when Trump defended neo-Nazis?
You also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
Or downplayed the coronavirus?
It's going to disappear one day. It's like a miracle.
It's time to fire politicians who failed us and elect leaders who will fight systemic racism, have a plan to beat the coronavirus, and will address bias in our healthcare system. This election, remember whose side Trump is on, not yours. Request a ballot now. Make a plan to vote. Our lives depend on it. Paid for by the NAACP.
With Internet Essentials from Comcast for only $9.95 a month, you get more. High-speed home internet service included. Peace of mind with X-Fi Advanced Security included. Access to millions of X-Fi Wi-Fi hotspots, that's included too. Internet Essentials from Comcast brings you affordable, high-speed internet to your home for only $9.95 a month. When you're connected, you're ready for anything. Visit InternetEssentials.com for more information. Taxes extra. Restrictions apply.
Joe Biden insulted millions of black Americans.
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Worse, Biden wrote the mass incarceration laws that destroyed a generation of black families. Listen to Biden's racist rhetoric.
We have no choice but to take them out of society. Away from my mother, your husband, our families. Lock the SOBs up.
Biden's policies were so harmful that Senator Cory Booker called him an architect of mass incarceration. Millions of black lives devastated by Biden's policies.
Take a look at my record, man.
We did, and we've had enough. Joe Biden spent years hurting the black community. He insulted us, jailed us. We must not elect him president.
I'm Donald Trump, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Donald J. Trump for President, Inc.
Dietz & Watson has been making premium meats and artisan cheeses for over 80 years. And when it comes to stacking sandwiches and party platters, they've got something for everyone in the family, like maple honey turkey breast, American cheese, buffalo chicken, and more. So get to your local deli and taste 4 generations of family recipes. With Dietz & Watson on the table, you'll have everyone coming back for seconds and thirds. Dietz & Watson, it's a family thing since 1939.
Hey guys, Tony Staten here, host of the Labor's Live radio show. And I have a question for all of the Labor's District Council union members and WURD listeners. Is your election checklist completed? Well, let's see. Is everyone of age in your household registered to vote? Is your mail-in ballot application completed? Have you confirmed your polling place for in-person voting? And do you know the names of the candidates running for office in your area? Well, if you've answered no to any of these questions, go to votespa.com for more information. And remember, exercise your right to vote. Your livelihood depends on it. Don't forget to tune into Labor's Live every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. on WURD, WURD.
Hi, I'm Kiera Bradford Gray, the Chief Defender of the Defender Association of Philadelphia. I've spent my career helping to reform our criminal justice system by advancing client-centered representation that empowers our communities to be stronger and safer. Our communities are still over-policed and under-resourced. This year, accountability is on the ballot, and we can finally have the community police oversight that we desperately need.
Paid for by Black Vote PA, which is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. www.theelectionisnow.com.
Man, this coronavirus has us all moving differently.
No doubt. Like washing our hands more and social distancing with the crew. I'm always telling people to give me 6 feet. We're here, Grandma.
There's my babies. Good to see you got your mask on.
Wear a mask. Stop the spread. For more information, visit www.pa.gov/COVID.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
You're waking up
with WURD,
hosted by Solomon Jones.
Good morning.
Right now on WURD Radio,
96.1 FM
and 900 AM WURD.
Good morning. This is Solomon Jones on 900 AM, 96.1 FM, WURD, and I want to welcome you back to Wake Up with WURD. We are, of course, talking about a number of things this morning. The big story, of course, is Walter Wallace, who was killed Monday by police in Philadelphia. He was experiencing a mental health episode, had a knife, was walking toward police officers when they shot 14 rounds toward him. The family says at least 10 of those rounds have hit him, and he died. And so there have been protests. Last night, somebody blew up an ATM, Shelton Avenue. Just craziness, man. And we're just a few days from an election, probably the biggest election in our lives. And one of the messages that we are getting from the president is that he's ready to send federal troops into, not federal troops, federal agents into Philadelphia. Of course, the governor has enacted the National Guard. But, you know, the looting and the blowing up ATMs and that kind of stuff really feeds into the president's message of law and order, which for many of us who've been around a while means crack the heads of black folks, right? And so I want to know how this is affecting us in terms of our views of this election, which is coming up in just a few days. Some people have expressed a feeling of hopelessness, that no matter what has happened in their lifetimes, and these folks tend to be a little bit younger, that nothing has changed, right? With the perspective of a little bit of time, folks who have seen things much worse than this understand that things have changed. But imagine you're somebody who's 30 and under. What you've seen in your lifetime in terms of everything else has happened with lightning quickness, right? You can put your food in a microwave and your food can be done in 30 seconds, right? You can turn on your television and have 500 channels at your disposal. You can go on the internet and get information from across the world instantly. And so if you're a young person who has seen everything else in your life, right, move with lightning quickness, your question would have to be, my question would be, why isn't this moving with lightning quickness, right? Why isn't this changing as quickly as I can put my food in the microwave and have it done? Why can't I just turn the channel and this is just different, right? And so I think we have to have those intergenerational conversations, especially now around what is happening with this election and voting, because if we don't, if too many of us say, well, you know what, ain't nothing going to change, and I ain't never seen nothing different, you know, and really feed into that, then guess what? We could be in for more of what we've seen over these last 4 years. And I need to say this, too, before I open the phone lines, that the very police unions, right, that are saying we need to support our police no matter what, and y'all just anti-police. Well, these are the same ones that had the Proud Boys down in the FOP. For those who don't know, the Proud Boys is a racist, white supremacist group. They had them down there buddy-buddy in the FOP. These are the same people who support Donald Trump, who in my view is a racist from way back, right? From the 70s, when he was getting sued for not letting black people move into his real estate properties. And so, you know, these are the same folks. And so we got to remember that too. I want to hear from you. Give me a call. 215-634-8065 is the number you can call to get in. Michael from Philly is on line one. Go ahead, Michael.
Hey, I'm calling in regards to, you know, the process. And as a young person who has endured in mental health crises in the past and finding solutions through education, I feel, as a younger person, I'm 31, I feel the only process that we're able to be the change that we want to see in the world is through education, not only because a degree validates our experience as colored people, but it gives us the opportunity for them to have to listen to it. And it's frustrating when there's so many injustice around the country. I'm a resident of Philadelphia. And how can we talk about the symptoms and not the root? And no one ever wants to address the symptoms, because when we address the, no one wants to address the root, because when we address the root, we address pension. We address salary. And this is what we need to do as the black community, is to be unapologetic about how we feel, but also need to present facts of really what's going on in the world. And the police shooting is just, it's just a symptom of a minimum wage. It's a symptom of Philadelphia being one of the most gentrified, biggest, poorest cities in America.
Yep.
And this is happening all across America.
Yep. I agree. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And it's funny because one of the things that happened yesterday, and sometimes I wake up thinking about moments that have happened, you know, in the day or in the show or whatever. And a guy caught me kind of by surprise. He asked me if Democrats get control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency, what do you think their priority should be? What is the one thing that you would like to see them do? And I said economic equality. Because I believe, and I share your belief, Michael, that a lot of what we see is grounded in economics. Now, of course, you know, where black people are concerned, much of it is grounded in white supremacy and racism and trying to keep us from having access to economics. But I think that if you solve some of the economic issues, then that would go a long way towards solving poverty, towards solving crime, towards solving some of the other symptoms, to use your word, that we see. So I think you're right, brother.
you, and continue to expose oppression and white supremacy, because as long as we're aware, that's not enough. Because we don't own properties, we don't own cars, we don't own real estate, we don't own, businesses. And until we're able to receive a equal playing field, I think that, political structures are just the game to save humanity in reality, when we realize as black people no one owes us anything. And we must get out there together and do this together. The dividing forces that are upon us, and it starts early as childhood dependency of, medication. My goal is to become a child psychologist, is to teach children therapy methods, to try to bypass the chemical dependency. And most of our children are in early stages of chemical dependency, and it's frustrating to know that we all are looking for a savior, and we may just be our own savior, just looking in the mirror. So
I'm curious, do you plan to vote?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course,
All right.
I don't have a choice. It's my obligation because of the process. Right. Voting teaches us to understand the process, and like you said, as I'm 30, and snapping our fingers, we can put food in the microwave, and the change has to come within ourselves, and we have to be the change that we want to see in the world.
I know that's right. Michael, I want to thank you so much for your call this morning on WURD. I really appreciate it. Roger from Southwest is online too. Go ahead, Roger.
All right, good morning, and peace be with you. What I think about is a book called The Art of War, and how you can create such an hostile environment through this death, which to me, I look at as a sacrifice. In order to stir up tension, then you get the rioting. Overnight, there was a van that was pulled over, found with explosives. Then there were seven U-Haul trucks stolen in the Northeast, and propane tanks. Okay, what's that about? And then going on City Ave and just breaking windows. Not looting, but breaking windows. The only store they went in was a liquor store. Okay, such a hostile environment has created. And then all along, Trump's narrative has been the election, mail-in ballots is fraudulent.
Yeah.
Since the spring. He's been saying the same thing, mail-in ballots, mail-in ballots. Now you know that Philadelphia predominantly turns out Democratic. This is one of the highly Democratic area in this state.
Right.
There's different areas, Pittsburgh area, Harrisburg, Philadelphia, Center. Okay? So now we have this hostile, and then they can justify the murder with the 21-foot rule. You see them backing up. If you look at the how they're taught to protect themselves, they say that if someone could just go online and look it up. The 21-foot rule.
Yeah, I don't know what that is, but I hear you, and I want to thank you for your call this morning on WURD. I'm at the point. Show me the footage. Show me the footage. Let me hear the 911 calls. Let me know the history of the police showing up at that particular household on that particular block. Like, all of those things are available, and I'd like to see them. Let's go to Malik from Mount Airy online 3. Go ahead, Malik.
Family,
Go ahead, Malik.
Solomon Jones.
Yes, good morning.
I'm at the point where like you said earlier, it's about economics, and as long as we have $1.3 trillion to spend, we have $1.3 trillion of power, but we use it in the wrong way. If we subtract our money from this economy, it's going to cripple it. But we have to unite and understand that voting is the first part, but our economic power is the second. And if you don't do what you say you're going to do, make them do it by taking our money out of the system until you do. I thank y'all, and have a great day.
All right, brother. I want to thank you, too, and thank the baby in the background, too. Let's go to Tony from North Philly on line 4. Go ahead, Tony.
Good morning, Solomon. Thanks for taking my call. Solomon, I didn't even have to talk, because what the brother just said before me is the exact thing I was about to say. any immigrants that come in this country, what's the first thing they do? They open a shop in our neighborhood and they become wealthy. So the wealth must already be with us. We just haven't realized how to utilize it. The vote plus that 1.3 trillion. See, when we spend our money, we're funding our own oppression. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, we have to vote plus and take care of. That's what the young kids, they already rich, but we haven't come to the point where we see that the ball is in our court, how we spend our money, and you know, it might not change everything, but it sure will start to slow things down. Just thank you for listening.
All right, thank you for your call this morning on WURD Radio. If you want to get in, it's 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. That is the number that you can call to get in on the conversation right here at WURD Radio. Let us know where you are on these various things we are talking about on this morning's show. 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. You can also weigh in on Facebook at ForWord at FORWURD. Jeanette Connor says this: good morning, Word family. Peace and blessings. Let me first send my condolences to Walter Wallace's family and all the other families that have lost someone due to these police officers. This has made me not only want to get out and vote, but I understand the disruption from the protest. My heart hurts to see my city being destroyed, but I also think it's part of the plan to distract. Yes, we have to vote, and yes, hold these people we elect accountable. So that is that comment from her. And we want to hear more from you as well. We got another comment from Roberta Bellamy, who says, good morning, Solomon and Word family. I'm still at a loss with this whole situation. It affects me personally, having an adult son who with mental health issues, who's 6'3" and 300+ pounds. We voted. Vote, vote, vote. So that is her comment. And let's see. We also got a comment from Atia Hicks, who says, yes, this incident, as well as many others, will impact this election. I already would, as I've already voted. It's been 4 years, way too long of just disruptive mess constantly. And Linda Evans says on Facebook, condolences to the Wallace family. Continue the fight for racial justice, but I have voted for Biden. We must not get distracted because too much is on the line, such as public health crises, economics, education, housing, systematic racism, etc. Stay focused and vote. We are going to go to break. On the other side of this break, we're going to talk with our first guest, Attorney Kevin Mincy, about protesters and their rights and protecting those rights during this latest uprising. I'm Solomon Jones. We'll be right back.
Now, a traffic update
on WURD Radio.
Good morning. This report sponsored by CVS. Looking at the lays out there on the Schuylkill Expressway, pretty jammed now both ways. Eastbound side Boulevard through University, a heavy ride there. Westbound side, you're busy from University through 30 through that construction. Then again, City out to Belmont, westbound Vine, delays 8th out to Broad again, Parkway through the Schuylkill Expressway. Southbound 95, jammed Cotman through Bridge through that construction. Jammed again, Betsy Ross through Girard. Blue Route 476 northbound near the Schuylkill Expressway. That earlier accident has been cleared. 55 north through jammed up there. Deptford into 42. CVS pharmacists have a proprietary search tool that analyzes ways to help lower your prescription costs. Come in or call today to get a free prescription savings review at CVS. Savings vary. Not all patients eligible for savings. Ask pharmacists for details. For more traffic information, log on to SIGAlert.com. Jim Bachman with your Philadelphia area traffic.
The pandemic is not only putting everyone's health at risk, it's also impacted our jobs and retirement security. And it's disproportionately affecting African Americans, especially those 50 plus. That's why AARP Pennsylvania is fighting for your voice to be heard. If you haven't voted yet, now is the time to learn about your voting options and cast your ballot. We're working to make sure you can vote safely, whether you choose to vote from home or in person. And if you choose to vote by mail, make sure you return your ballot using both envelopes. Your ballot goes in the smaller envelope for secrecy, and that goes into the larger envelope for mailing. Also, don't forget to sign the voter declaration on the back. Your voice matters. Make sure it's heard. Go to aarp.org/PA votes to learn about your voting options and how to vote safely this election. Visit aarp.org/PA votes today. Paid for by AARP.
Tune in Saturdays from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. to hear Empire Capital and Consulting founder Mark Palmer's show titled Black Money, Black Power. This show centers around black money and how black power is derived from money. Tune in every Saturday from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Black Money, Black Power. Hosted by Mark Palmer.
I'm Philadelphia City Councilwoman Sherelle Parker, and this message is for the sisters. We wear a lot of hats. We're mothers, aunties and daughters, teachers, community leaders, and CEOs. We rise to the occasion every day. We're good at it too. And now, more than ever, we need to do what we do. Show up and show out this election. To organize, to make those calls and get out the vote. To stand up for our families and our communities, just like you do every single day, every single time. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are counting on us, and we know that we can count on them.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
At PICO, we know one thing is certain. Times have changed. From kitchen classrooms to couch conference calls, searching for a new job, or new ways to keep your family connected. These changes have become a part of our reality. That's why our teams are working 24/7 to meet the needs of our communities. So no matter how much things change, you can depend on PICO to be there with the energy and help you need to power through. Learn more at pico.com.
Let me be as honest and clear as I possibly can. Donald Trump is the wrong president for our country. He has had more than enough time to prove that he can do the job, but he is clearly in over his head.
America needs a president who can handle the job. America needs Joe Biden. Make a plan to vote. Our lives depend on it.
Paid for by AFSCME People, which is responsible for the content of this ad. AFSCMEPeople.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Join Nick Taliaferro this Thursday at 5 p.m. for a very special conversation with Matt McGill and Kimberly Egoin of WVON Radio in Chicago on the racial unrest in Chicago and Philadelphia. That's this Thursday at 5 p.m. Simulcast on WURD Radio and WVON in Chicago. It's Wake Up with WURD, hosted by Solomon Jones, right now on WURD Radio,
96.1 FM
and 900 AM WURD.
Good morning. We are back right here on WURD Radio with our first guest. Attorney Kevin Mincy is a founding partner of the law firm Mincy Fitzpatrick Ross, LLC. He joins us to talk about protecting the rights of protesters during this latest uprising against police violence. Kevin, good morning.
Solomon, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yep, it's a pleasure. If you're on speakerphone, if you could get on the regular phone, we could probably hear you a little bit better. I want to talk about what rights protesters have in America so that we can have a better understanding of what rights you're talking about protecting.
Well, we're talking about, Solomon, the First Amendment, right to peaceably assemble, freedom to express themselves, and then also in light of the conduct of the police officers in recent months, we're talking about Fourth Amendment rights to unlawful search and seizure, et cetera. So we're keeping an eye on all of the reactions of the police in response to the Walter Wallace protests, and hopeful that they'll stay true to their word from this summer and change their response tactics.
Mm-hmm. And so the First Amendment does give us the right to peaceably assemble, and that is a key word in that in that amendment. And so what exactly does that mean?
Well, you certainly have a right to observe the police. So we saw a number of folks, clergy members, members of the community, out in West Philadelphia in the last couple of nights observing police conduct in dealing with protesters and in the quote-unquote looters. You have a right to be vociferous. You can express your displeasure and your discontent with the current state of affairs. It doesn't mean you have to stand there and be silent. You don't have a right to destroy property and be physically violent towards people, but you have a right to let your voice be heard, and that's what we're interested in protecting here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so the other thing that the First Amendment, I believe, says is that we have the right to petition our government for a redress of grievances. What does that mean?
Well, I think you can petition the government in a number of ways, whether it's a lawsuit, which is my typical form of redress. You can obviously have petition work, sign petitions to get initiatives on the ballot and try and get the voters to speak. I think the key here is for our citizens, our Philadelphia citizens, to know that they have a right to be a participant, an active participant in all levels of government. And so what we don't want, what we saw this summer was the police taking steps to chill that speech, right, to make people want to stay in the house, make them afraid to come out and protest because of what they thought might happen to them at the hands of the police department and at the hands of the government. And that's really what the First Amendment's about. It's not about preventing private industries from keeping you from saying something. It's about the government stepping in and keeping citizens from being able to speak freely.
Mm-hmm. And so when we look at the protests, what are people doing that they have the right to do, and what are people doing that they don't have the right to do?
Well, the easy answer is obviously the destruction of property, right? You don't have a right to go and smash windows and steal property out of businesses and stuff. Obviously, we don't have a right to do that, but they do have a right to assemble en masse, whether that's in West Philadelphia, Center City, any part of the city. Let their voices be heard. They can, if you're going to have an organized protest, I know that there are, sometimes you're required to have permits to do those types of things, but I would say that the city in that aspect has been, relatively lenient, is that I know that they haven't had permits to have these protests in West Philly the last couple of nights, but they're not dispersing the people because they understand, it's a community that's hurting, that's grieving. But, there are a lot of avenues to make your voice heard, whether it's through protests or through voting or what have you. And I think the most important thing is that we not be silent, that Philadelphians know that they need to be vocal to get the changes they want, because it's easy in the moment for city officials to make promises to us as citizens about what they're going to do. But when, the initial fervor kind of dies down, what's going to hold their feet to the fire? So we need to continue to be vocal and loud about the issues that we care about.
Mm-hmm. Now, the Fourth Amendment, unreasonable search and seizure. What did you mean when you said you want to protect people's Fourth Amendment rights as well?
Well, the unnecessary taking of people into custody for citations at these protests. I'm talking about the peaceful protesters, taking them into custody, charging them with disorderly conduct or with loitering or, these kind of innocuous and insignificant crimes, but are enough to make someone not want to come out and be a part of the protest. So we saw last summer, they grouped all the people up at 676, put them in the zip ties, and took them down to different districts and charged them with a number of citations that were ultimately dismissed by the mayor. And you saw the viral videos of them swarming that car and smashing the windows and pulling a woman out and a couple other, a baby and another young man out of the car and taking them into police custody. And so those are the rights we're talking about protecting. That's a person who wasn't even involved in the protest, was literally just trying to get down the street and ends up being assaulted and taken into custody. And that's the type of stuff we can't stand for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so what are you and other lawyers in the city of Philadelphia doing specifically to protect those rights of those protesters?
Well, in connection with the protest from the summer, we just, my group, my team of lawyers, we just filed our amended complaint. We represent over 230 plaintiffs from that, the 676 in West Philadelphia protest from the summer. Obviously, we're monitoring, speaking to our clients, our existing clients who are, they believe in having their voice heard. So they're out there protesting now. I'm talking with them on a daily basis to see how the police are reacting, obviously following on social media and seeing if there are things that we're going to need to bring up, not only in whether it's new lawsuits against officers for misconduct, but even in our discussions with the city of Philadelphia in resolving our current lawsuit, things that we need to bring to their attention so we can try and get to real systemic reform in how they respond and police our communities.
So you alluded to what happened on 676 and in West Philadelphia in reference to the George Floyd protest that took place over the summer. Can you just describe for us what happened then for those who might not know?
Well, Mr. Floyd was killed on Memorial Day. That started a number of protests all over the country and certainly here in Philadelphia, on which we saw kind of crest with the protest and then the destruction of property in Center City that moved to West Philadelphia on May 31st. In Center City, we saw the police kind of stand by and just allow the damage and destruction to happen. In West Philadelphia, they took a more confrontational approach with militarized vehicles, shooting tear gas down neighborhood blocks on a Sunday afternoon, shooting rubber bullets and tear gas at protesters just standing on the street and standing on the street watching the police conduct. Then that rolled over to the next day when the marchers were protesting and marching through Center City. They allowed the protesters to go down on the 676, trapped them in, kettled them by basically blocking their means of escape on any of the off-ramps, and then from on high and even on the ground level, shot down tear gas onto the street, rubber bullets onto the street, causing significant injuries to hundreds of people who were exercising their First Amendment right. And so that's what we're talking about. We don't want to see that happen again. In the aftermath of that, obviously the commissioner and the mayor recognized after weeks and after the New York Times put out their video, recognized that there was police misconduct, that they were wrong in authorizing the use of tear gas and rubber bullets. They promised us that they would not do that again. But I know that tear gas has been used on protesters the last couple of nights. I know that, from seeing the videos.
You said tear gas has been used the last couple of nights?
I know for a fact on, what's the day, Thursday? So I know on Tuesday, I spoke to a client who had been tear gassed, who had been struck in the head by a police officer. She went to the hospital. We saw the video of the officers smashing windows and injuring folks from Wednesday. So, regardless of what the city officials are saying publicly, the police officers, some of the police officers are acting on their own when they're out there on the street, and it's chilling people's rights to exercise their First Amendment rights. And we can't.
Well, I guess my question is, if they were acting on their own, where would they get the tear gas from?
Well, let me say, when I say acting on their own, let's say the brass, right? The public statements from the brass and from the city are that they're not authorizing this type of conduct. I mean, officers have OC spray and pepper spray on their belts, so it's part of their standard uniform. So I don't believe that they've stopped issuing that. So I would say that's probably where they're getting it, and that's what's using. But they've been spraying protesting crowds indiscriminately with OC spray from their belt.
Okay, so OC spray, but is that, in your view, is that the same as tear gas, or?
It certainly has the same effect.
It has the same effect. So it's not tear gas, it's OC spray. Okay.
Problems with breathing, burning of the skin, burning of the eyes, has the exact same effect. Whether or not they're firing them out of the same type of militarized cannons that we saw coming out of in West Philadelphia, coming out of those trucks, I can't say that because I haven't seen any pictures of those kind of militarized vehicles showing up in West Philly again. But certainly they're using the OC spray to try and quote calm the crowds, and that never works.
How do people get in touch with you, Kevin?
You can reach out to my firm at minceyfitzross.com. Our phone number is 215-587-0006. I'm working with a number of lawyers on the protest cases with my partner, Riley Ross, Paul Hessnecker, Michael Cord, Marnie Snyder, Stephen Stewart. We're all keeping our eye on what's going on and looking to hold the city accountable where we have to, and hoping that the citizens will continue to be out there in the streets and marching for Mr. Wallace and for an end to the police misconduct brutality that has permeated Philadelphia for far too long.
All right. All right. That is Kevin Mincy of Mincy Fitzpatrick Ross LLC talking about the rights of protesters during this current climate of unrest connected to the death of Walter Wallace Jr. Kevin, I want to thank you as always for joining us this morning on WURD.
Thanks for having me, bro. Talk to you soon.
All right. Talk to you soon. 215-634-8065, of course, is the number that you can call to get in on the conversation. I want to remind you that Nick Taliaferro's back with a new show, Evening Words, Monday through Thursday, 4 to 7. To celebrate Nick's return, you can welcome him back by becoming a WURD member. Now through Monday, November 2nd, you can get a free hoodie, a value of $40 if you use the code WELCOMEBACK. Go to wordradio.com. Join now to join or renew your full WURD membership and get your free hoodie today. I'm Solomon Jones. We'll be right back.
Internet Essentials from Comcast, high-speed home internet for low-income families for just $9.95 per month. Visit internetessentials.com to learn more.
The pandemic is not only putting everyone's health at risk, it's also impacted our jobs and retirement security. And it's disproportionately affecting African Americans, especially those 50 plus. That's why AARP Pennsylvania is fighting for your voice to be heard. If you haven't voted yet, now is the time to learn about your voting options and cast your ballot. We're working to make sure you can vote safely, whether you choose to vote from home or in person. And if you choose to vote by mail, make sure you return your ballot using both envelopes. Your ballot goes in the smaller envelope for secrecy, and that goes into the larger envelope for mailing. Also, don't forget to sign the voter declaration on the back. Your voice matters. Make sure it's heard. Go to aarp.org/PA votes to learn about your voting options and how to vote safely this election. Visit aarp.org/PA votes today. Paid for by AARP.
Philadelphia, old, young, and all in between. We've got to get out and rock the vote in this election. We have the power to make a difference, but we cannot make that difference without your vote. Vote by mail or vote in person. Our vote is the voice that will save our lives. This message is sponsored by the Leon H. Sullivan Charitable Trust.
Livelihood, the new initiative from WURD Radio, connecting Philadelphians to jobs, entrepreneurship opportunities, small business resources, and financial literacy. Visit WURDworks.com right now and take the next step in your professional journey. Livelihood is supported by the Nightland Fest's Local News Transformation Fund, Borealis Philanthropies Racial Equity and Journalism Fund, and the Solutions Journalism Network.
I'm Philadelphia City Councilwoman Sherelle Parker, and this message is for the sisters. We wear a lot of hats. We're mothers, aunties and daughters, teachers, community leaders, and CEOs. We rise to the occasion every day. We're good at it too. And now, more than ever, we need to do what we do. Show up and show out this election. To organize, to make those calls and get out the vote, to stand up for our families and our communities, just like you do every single day, every single time. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are counting on us, and we know that we can count on them.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
Listen to Laborers Live.
We created the weekend. We created the 40-hour work week. We just want enough to feed our family, be able to send our children to college, and let our next generation do better than we did.
To people that might have forgot how important unionism is in a country like the United States. People now infringing on our 8-hour workday, trying to work people more than 8 hours without overtime, trying to work people without benefits. In the long run, everybody's getting a fat paycheck except the worker. So this is really a wake-up call for America.
The struggle is continuous. Tune in to Laborers Live every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. Sponsored by LESIT, the Laborers Employers Cooperation Education Trust of the Laborers District Council of Philadelphia and vicinity.
Local 332, Sam Staten Jr. Business Manager. Local 57, Esteban Vera Business Manager. Local 135, Dan Woodall Jr. Business Manager. Local 413, James Harper Jr. Business Manager. The Laborers District Council, Ryan Boyer Business Manager, and Tony Staten Staten, Executive Director of LESIT.
Hello, brothers and sisters. I'm Ryan M. Boyer, the business manager of Labor's District Council of Philadelphia and vicinity. This is the most important and crucial election of our lifetime. We need you to help us to win this election in Pennsylvania.
You can make change. Your change, your vote, it counts.
That's our power. Our power is in our voice. Our power is in our vote. The challenge has been issued. What are you going to do about it?
Paid for by the Labor's District Council PAC Fund.
This is WURD Radio.
96.1 FM.
And 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Black Talk Media.
It's Wake Up with WURD. Hosted by Solomon Jones. Right now on WURD Radio.
96.1 FM.
And 900 AM WURD.
Good morning. This is Solomon Jones on 900 AM, 96.1 FM, WURD. I want to welcome you back to Wake Up with Word. We're taking your calls at 215-634-8065. How has the Walter Wallace uprising affected what's going on with this election? The election, of course, taking place in just a few days. It's next Tuesday is Election Day. Many of us, including myself, have already voted. But what are you seeing? What are you hearing around how this affects how people feel about this election? Let's go to Jacob from Olney on line 1. Go ahead, Jacob.
Hey, good morning. Peace be unto you, Brother Solomon.
Good morning.
I've been listening. Somebody texted me this morning, one of my, friends, and they had 5 days, right? And it was like they were being a little scared. I told them, don't get scared, right? Think of the 5 as, like I said, we pray 5 times a day as Muslims, right? Mm-hmm. Good thing. I said, and think about it as the 5 stones that David had to slay Goliath, right? Let's keep it positive. It's not, I think we have nothing to fear but fear itself. Yeah. If we went out, Solomon, and done all that we could do, and that is vote, right? Then we got we've done what we can do, but on this protesting thing, man, the right to protest, yes, that's good. But some of this stuff in our hood, man, don't have anything to do with the bad decisions of 2 cops in West Philadelphia, right? Mm-hmm. And some of these people, because what that got to do with over in Armingo Avenue, where they tore up the stores and everything, if you was to stop some of these people, I ain't a betting man, but if we keep it 100, if you stop these people from, and say, look, let me ask you a question. What's the name of the brother that got shot in West Philadelphia? They wouldn't even know. And then I heard somebody say, yeah, we don't have any black businesses and everything. What about a woman or a man who put their life savings in a store, let's say on 50-something Market, right? And because they want to tear up some stuff, you destroyed that person's whole life thing. For what? Is it going to bring our brother back? I don't think so. So, we got to keep it 100. And these people who's doing these things, they're tearing up their hood. Why should a senior citizen suffer in West Philadelphia? Yeah. Because they done tore up. Now they can't get their medicine, this life-saving medicine. Come on, man. We got to wake up and stop doing stupid things and to mess up ourselves. Because if you tear up everything in your neighborhood, when you want a burger, you're going to have to catch the bus and go to a white neighborhood to get a burger from Burger King? Come on, man. It doesn't make sense, Solomon.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. I want to thank you, Jacob, for your call this morning on WURD Radio. If you want to get in, it's 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. Let's go to Maurice from Southwest on line 2. Go ahead, Maurice.
Sound strong, Solomon.
Thank you, brother. I feel strong.
I'm looking at it from a police side, okay?
Okay.
And first of all, I was very surprised with the incident that the cops are not prepared in West Philly to handle the people. They don't have the proper supplies. When they say they didn't have the tasers, which is ridiculous, which is a lie. When they say they don't have chemical agents, that's a lie. When they say they don't have stun shield, that's a lie. They have these things because they also have them in white neighborhoods. So are we just learning that when they come to our neighborhoods, they only prepared with the gun? Now, I want to follow up on what Jacob said, which is true. These incidents in Port Richmond, which is to us is 1,000,000 miles away.
Yeah.
Why are they over there riding? It don't make sense. Why are they riding up and down City Line Avenue with caravans riding? That is not us. We got to understand, Pennsylvania is a state that the Republicans want. This is outside money coming in to get these fools to run up and down and do this nonsense so they can say, look, I'm coming to save Pennsylvania because especially Philadelphia is out of control. It's a Democratic city.
Well, I'm curious. I'm curious about what you mean by money. What do you mean outside money is getting people to run up and down and do these things? What do you mean by that?
Look, we're the poorest, largest city in the country. There's no jobs for black people in Philadelphia. You come in, you throw a few dollars down. Well, we call a few dollars like $500. Well, you got somebody coming in throwing $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 down. Say, look, we need a little thing. You see that when they pulled.
So you think somebody paid people to run in those stores?
And
that's what you think?
People don't have money right now. You see the truck that they pulled over in Center City with all the explosives and stuff. What was that for? What was that for? We got to put it together.
So I think at this point that's a theory that somebody paid somebody to bust out the windows. But I mean, it's an interesting theory.
See, what I'm saying is, you notice, I don't hear nothing about all these big. I hear smaller risks, but they say in Port Richmond it was almost 1,000 people running over there. There ain't no 1,000 people get organized because of something that happened over here in West Philly and Port Richmond. They got their own thing going on that part of town. Now, if something was to happen over there, I could understand them running around. But why are they running over there when it happened over here? You know what I'm saying? We got to think of these guys are playing chess while we're playing chess. We're thinking of the small time. They're thinking of big time.
Okay. All right, Maurice, I want to thank you for your call this morning on WURD Radio. Let's go to Miss Madeline Dunn from Overbrook on line 1. Go ahead, Miss Dunn.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is so sad. I want to go back to, I do believe, Maurice, my grandson and I, who is 15, goes to Bishop Carroll out in Radnor. We had a talk yesterday. And I said, at a diet, what do you think? He said, Grandma, Trump got it set up that anything that jumped off in Philly, you go here, you go there, do it all over the place. Let them know that Philadelphia is nothing, that they're a bunch of thieves and stealing and lying and cheating. I mean, he just, I was like sitting with my mouth open, you hear me? Because he don't usually get emotional when he talks either. And he said, Grandma, this was the opportunity for them. This man is desperate. If he can keep Philadelphians to either stay home or change their vote from Biden to him, he will be very happy. And I said, but this man has been so devious and so, like, he can't run anything. He has shown time and time again he can't get a plan together. I mean, what did he do with them people the other night? And when I saw him on television at 11 o'clock, still sitting in that cold air out there, all people, my God, the man is sick. He is sick. And he has money, not as much as he would like to have right now, but he could dump $25,000 in here to go and blow up machines, et cetera, et cetera. And I think the people who really know him started emptying their machines at night because they didn't get what they thought they was going to get. Thanks for taking my call.
All right, thanks for your call this morning on WURD. If you want to get in, it's 215-634-8065. Ron from Overbrook is on line 2. Go ahead, Ron.
Morning.
Good morning.
I want to disagree and say that this the last incident had something to do with Trump. I think what happens is every time the police do a violent and vicious attack on us, people just get upset and they go back to what they done last time, start looting and destroying property. I think what these young people need to do is to understand what one of your callers has said before. You're destroying your own community, places where we go shop, places where we go eat. And the brother said it happened at a critical time where senior citizens will not be able to get their medication. They got to go further now to get their medication. Somehow, there has to be a solution to stop these young people from doing extreme violence in our city. This is where we live. They just rebuilt the Rite Aid, the CVS, the Walgreens, and they just refurbished the Lowe's department store and the ShopRite stores. These people who's doing this, they have no sense of respect for other people's property.
Well, I think what you just said is part of the key to it. If you don't own anything and don't know what it's like to own anything, then what sense of property do you really have? And I think that might be part of the issue. But I think the other thing is just desperation, hopelessness, and you know, casting morality aside when it's like, look, man, this is my opportunity to get something. I ain't never had nothing. You know what I mean? So I know that it's wrong, but I think that when people have never had anything, it's hard to tell them about what it means to have property.
When they have nothing. Yeah. Understood.
Yeah. So I want to thank you for your call on WURD radio. I think it's absolutely wrong. You know what I mean? To just bust in other people's stuff and just take it, right? But, you know, we have to realize that we have created an atmosphere and a culture in Philadelphia where you got a whole class of people, the vast majority of them black and brown, who don't have nothing. And, like, we perpetuate that, right, with stuff like giving 10-year tax abatements to people that got money to have new property, and then trying to extend it, talking about, oh, well, they missed out on a couple of months of money, so let's give them 3 more years. Like, what? You understand what I'm saying? We perpetuate that poverty and then wonder why people act the way that they do. We have to deal with this thing on multiple levels. I think one of the levels that is extremely important is economics. People have to have the hope that they can get stuff legitimately, because if they don't have that hope, then why would they operate within a legitimate system? They're going to operate outside the system. That's what they're going to do. You know what I mean? And you know, we can talk around it and talk about morality and all of that stuff all we want, but if people feel like you got all of this stuff, I'm looking at you, you live 2 blocks away from me in $1 million home, my house look like a condominium. You understand? You know, what do you expect that people going to do? So I just think that even as we deal with making criminal justice reforms, because they absolutely have to be made, right? You got to send out people who know how to deal with mental health to mental health calls. You got to do that. You got to immediately put that in place. You got to have social workers to deal with issues that are not crime issues, but rather are social ills. You got to have social workers to do that. You gotta do it. You got to have all the police with tasers. It doesn't make sense that all of them don't have tasers. That's ridiculous, right? But at the same time, you got to make sure people have jobs and have the opportunity to actually rise in those jobs, have the opportunity to actually get a loan based on the fact my house worth $300,000 now, because now I got gentrifiers on my block, but I can't get a loan because y'all giving all the loans to white people. You got to address the banking system. All of that stuff has to be addressed. Otherwise, people feel hopeless, and then you get what you get. A riot is the voice of the unheard. I'm realizing that, man, more and more. I want to hear from you. Give me a call, 215-634-8065. Let's go to Anthony from Chestnut Hill on line 3. Go ahead.
Good morning, Solomon. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, friend. Thank you. And again, Solomon, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I think part of the problem is a lack of hope in these communities. It's not the fact that tearing down their own communities and things, but they don't have nothing. And the people in these communities that own these Rite Aids, Lowe's, and CVS, they're not Uncle Bob or Cousin Shirley or my father. These are outsiders, so there's no sense of ownership there. I also believe, too, that everything that you said about, like, having social workers and mental health workers to accompany these police, we also have to realize the value of community policing. You take two white cops that go into a West Philly community with nobody that looks like them, and the first thing they do is drop off 14 bullets. If that's community policing, this gentleman probably knows who these police are. These police know who these neighbors are, and they act accordingly. We have to get to that. And then my final point is, I kind of agree, too, that when these things happen, opportunists get to do what they want to do in regards to instigating and putting things in the light to support Trump, and bad things happen in Philadelphia. Thank you for allowing me to share.
Thank you for your call this morning on WURD. Let's go to Bishop Harry from West Philly on line 1. Good morning.
It's Bishop Mercer. Good
Bishop
morning,
Mercer. Good morning.
I'm really upset. I'm looking at, we have leaders in the city council and all these councils. Why can't they do something for these people? Why can't they see what these cops doing, and why can't they crack down on it? But they just sit around and do nothing at all. And people is upset. I don't condone the looting and all that stuff. I think it's wrong. And what they did to Jeff Brown, which a man that helped the community, that's sickness me. But these leaders is the cause of things. Like, you might have missed this morning. It was a guy on the radio this morning that they said a guy was sitting in the car, 55th and Pine, and the cop ran up on a stick and busted him and broke his face. And Michael Cord had that because he was courting. This stuff got to stop. We got to root these cops out. We got to press on these leaders. We don't press on them to get rid of them. They're not doing nothing for the community. You know that? Nothing at all. And then another thing, they said when they had the community at 61st Street at church, can't go a politician going to show a picture of a white boy getting shot and why the mother. Why they do that? The mother had a son. That don't make sense at all to me. You understand me, Brother Tom? That don't make sense. I do. So we had to press these leaders, and like you said, all these tax abatements and we not getting nothing, we're not going to have it. Like I said, we had to get out there and vote. Either vote them out or get what we had to do. Peace and blessing to you. God bless you, Solomon. All right?
God bless you, too, and thank you so much for your call this morning on WURD. There is so much going on. And the one thing I would say to our folks is this, and we have to support those who support us. We have to support those businesses that support us. You know what I mean? There are many black-owned businesses that survived the last uprising that we had. But we got to support people who support us. And Bishop Mercer mentioned Jeff Brown. Leave Brown's family shop rights alone, man. For real. This is a man who I have known for over a decade, right? Who has really supported much of what the community needed to have done. Gave folks jobs who couldn't get jobs in other places. Brought in people who were just coming out of jail, gave them a second chance. You know what I mean? Supported various things in the community. Right now, supports Man Up as a board member. And so, you got to support those who support us, man. You really do. You really do. You know what I mean? So, I'm glad that many of our black-owned businesses, and I'm going to give a shout-out to one, Hafiz Hair Supply up on Shelton Avenue. I'm glad that they were able to get through that last uprising. They were one of the businesses we brought in early on, man, for Mind Your Business, when we were trying to support black businesses. And so I'm glad to see these places be able to survive. We have to support our own and we have to support those who support us, man. We got to really think about what we are doing in our community around these issues. Want to remind you that Nick Taliaferro is back with a new show, Evening Words, Monday through Thursday, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. to celebrate Nick's return. You can welcome him back by becoming a WURD member. And now through Monday, November 2nd, you can get a free hoodie at a value of $40 if you use the code WELCOMEBACK. Go to wordradio.com/join now to join or renew your full WURD membership and get your free hoodie today. I'm Solomon Jones. We'll be right back.
Now, a traffic update
on WURD Radio.
Good morning. This report sponsored by CVS. A wet ride this morning as rain heavy at times moving through the area. Schuylkill Expressway westbound already busy from University to 30th Street eastbound. Not bad yet. Accident on the Blue Route 476 northbound just north of the Schuylkill Expressway. Watch for crews and restrictions there. Southbound 95 jamming Cottman down through Bridge through that work zone. Again, Betsy Ross through Girard. Northbound 95 moving fine. 55 northbound Deptford into 42 getting heavy there now. CVS pharmacists have a proprietary search tool that analyzes ways to help lower your prescription costs. Come in or call today to get a free prescription savings review at CVS. Savings vary. Not all patients eligible for savings. Ask pharmacists for details. For more traffic information, log on to SIGAlert.com. Jim Bachman with your Philadelphia area traffic.
Remember when Trump defended neo-Nazis?
You also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
Or downplayed the coronavirus?
It's going to disappear one day. It's like a miracle.
It's time to fire politicians who failed us and elect leaders who will fight systemic racism, have a plan to beat the coronavirus, and will address bias in our healthcare system. This election, remember whose side Trump is on, not yours. Request a ballot now. Make a plan to vote. Our lives depend on it. Paid for by the NAACP.
Hi, my name is Dr. Blake. If you're out there with residual baby fat and you want that waistline back, Smart Lipo Laser is for you at Blake GI Med Spa Services. It is affordable, minimally invasive, minimum discomfort, minimum downtime, and no loose skin. You will see results in 24 hours. Give us a call at Blake GI Med Spa Services today, 215-849-4902.
Want the latest in WURD swag?
Check out the shop tab on wordradio.com. Hoodies, tees, and more in a variety of colors. The shop tab on wordradio.com. Show the world that you're all about black.
Talk Media.
2020 is the year of voter options. We have many different ways to exercise one of the most important activities in our lifetime. Some of us might be voting by mail, but the rest of us can still vote safely while masked up and social distancing in person at your local polling locations. If you're in Philadelphia, learn more about where your polling location might be at either votespa.com or philadelphiavotes.com. For more information on how to vote in Pennsylvania, visit states.aarp.org/Pennsylvania. Vote early.
Keeping you informed. As a community service, WURD Radio and the Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium wants to keep you informed about where you can get no-cost, barrier-free COVID-19 testing this week. Tuesday, October 27th from 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. at Northeast Baptist Church, 4744 Tackawanna Street. Thursday, October 29th from 3 p.m. till 7 p.m. at Enon Tabernacle Baptist Church East, 2800 West Cheltenham Avenue. And Saturday, October 31st from 10 a.m. till 3 p.m. at Hartranft Playground Alliance, 800 West Cumberland Street. Stay informed and stay well with WURD Radio.
96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
I'm Philadelphia City Councilwoman Sherelle Parker, and this message is for the sisters. We wear a lot of hats. We're mothers, aunties and daughters, teachers, community leaders, and CEOs. We rise to the occasion every day. We're good at it too. And now, more than ever, we need to do what we do. Show up and show out this election. To organize, to make those calls and get out the vote. To stand up for our families and our communities, just like you do every single day, every single time. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are counting on us. And we know that we can count on them.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
Did you know you can catch the flu and COVID-19 at the same time or even back-to-back? Don't risk catching the flu during the COVID-19 pandemic. The flu shot is a safe and effective way of reducing your chances of catching the flu or spreading it to others. And the flu shot helps protect you and your community from the worst effects of the flu. Don't say, I should have got my flu shot. Call your doctor or visit your pharmacist and get your flu shot today.
Join Nick Taliaferro this Thursday at 5 p.m. for a very special conversation with Matt McGill and Kimberly Egoin of WVON Radio in Chicago on the racial unrest in Chicago and Philadelphia. That's this Thursday at 5 p.m. Simulcast on WURD Radio and WVON in Chicago. It's Wake Up with WURD, hosted by Solomon Jones.
Good morning.
Right now on WURD Radio.
96.1 FM.
And 900 AM WURD.
His voice quivered. Nobody repents better than a politician who's been caught. I think basically they're just annoyed that they didn't say it first. I sat down on the train. Next thing I know, I'm standing here in the lobby of the Trump Plaza.
How did I get here?
I don't know. Clearly there was an endorsement that was going to happen that day.
And now, Jay McCallum, only on Wake Up with WURD.
Good morning. This is Solomon Jones on 900 AM, 96.1 FM, WURD, and I want to welcome you back to Wake Up with WURD. Joining us now, of course, Jay McCallum. He held senior positions in both the Rendell and Street administrations, a veteran political consultant. McCallum's work has been published in the Philadelphia Inquirer, Philadelphia Magazine, and the Chestnut Hill Local. He brings deep knowledge to politics and does so from an African-American perspective. Jay, good morning.
Morning to you, Solomon. How you feeling?
I feel much better, man. I feel really good.
I'm glad. You sound good. You look good on Facebook.
Thank you.
Glad to see you.
Thank you. There's a lot going on politically, Jay. The first thing is Amy Coney Barrett, gets confirmed to the Supreme Court. Clarence Thomas swears her in a ceremony on the White House lawn. What do you think we should expect after the confirmation of Amy Coney Barrett gave the court a 6-3 conservative majority?
Man, oh man, oh man. You know what? I think Trump, in his own clumsy, stupid little way, was trying to get the black vote by having Clarence Thomas swear her in. Normally, that's the job of the Chief Justice.
Right.
So I think he was doing something a little stupid, a little shallow, but hey, that's our boy. There's a group called the Federalist Society, the Federalist Society for Law and Public Policy. It's an organization that's committed to reversing the liberal point of view in American laws. They grew sick of seeing voting rights for blacks. They hate affirmative action. They oppose equal rights for women. They oppose the Americans with Disabilities Act, and they hate labor unions. They hate everything that we like. And Amy Coney Barrett is a member of the Federalist Society. Her career is dedicated to reversing everything that's been a liberal creation, like the Fair Housing Act and workplace protection against discrimination. That's what she's about. In fact, the backdrop to this is every Republican appointee to the court since George Herbert Walker Bush has come from the Federalist Society. Not only are they stacking the court with Republicans, they're stacking the court with people with a certain real narrow conservative point of view. If Barrett gets a chance, she's going to vote to end the right of women to terminate a pregnancy. She's as extreme as, and you remember those conservative Republicans who would talk about no abortions, even in the case of rape or incest. She's one of those kinds of Republicans. Women, gays, blacks, and the disabled have all enjoyed just a little extra sunshine under the court over the years. And she's going to take that away. That's her job. That's Brett Kavanaugh's job. That's the job of the Chief Justice. She's just going to be Clarence Thomas in a dress. That's it. Slowly, Republicans have assembled a wrecking crew to dismantle civil rights and elevate corporations to like a godlike status. The first big bite, as we all remember, was under Obama when they wiped out the Voting Rights Act, which gave way to a tsunami of voter suppression that's going to continue until the day I die. By corrupting the court, Republicans have the power Americans would never have given them. Solomon, by controlling the court, Republicans control America. And Amy Coney Barrett is just one more brick in the wall.
You know, I think that a couple of things could happen. So you've got all of these different groups who come from different perspectives, who don't necessarily support each other's agendas. You have folks who, for instance, might be in favor of abortion. You might have folks who are in favor of gay rights. You might have people who are in favor of affirmative action, folks who are in favor of criminal justice reform. And they come from all of these different places and all of these different points of view. But I wonder if the court begins to take people's rights away that they have had in America for a generation or more, if there will be backlash to the point where they realize they got to change some of that stuff back. You can't just come and be like, all right, well, I know you had this right for 50 years, but now I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
And do it to all of these different groups. I wonder if a coalition forms of people who come from, you know, various different backgrounds, believe in different things, but all of them are having their rights attacked. I wonder if it backfires, Jay.
I would like to think. I mean, and I look at China, for an example. They're taking over Hong Kong. Hong Kong has been run by England or Britain for a couple of generations. But the deal is Hong Kong is now being returned as property to China. The people in Hong Kong have grown up over the years with British law, with freedom, with rights. And they see their rights being quickly taken away when China takes control of Hong Kong. They're rioting in the streets in the Hong Kong. And so I'm not saying we should be rioting in the streets right now, but we need to do whatever our patriots did at the founding of this country to protect our rights. You know, it's amazing. Republicans say they believe in small government, but here they are trying to put in place a big government that's going to take away our rights. Now, that's a powerful government. It's not just helping us with loans and go to college. They're going to restrict our freedoms, you know. So I hope we fight back like the folks in Hong Kong are fighting back, or the folks in Belarus who are trying to throw off a Russian-imposed dictator. You know, freedom comes in details, and when they start taking it away, your vote, your choices, your freedom of movement, it's time to fight back with everything we've got.
Yeah. And it's been interesting because one of the tools that the Republican Party has tried to use in order to maintain power is voter suppression, right? And the Supreme Court is now getting a lot of these cases. And it's interesting because the first case came up yesterday. They made their decision yesterday. Amy Coney Barrett was not involved in that. She hadn't been there long enough to even read the briefs. But the Supreme Court rejected the Trump administration's effort to shorten North Carolina's mail-in ballot deadline, allowing the rules to stay in place that allow ballots to be counted up to 9 days after Election Day, as long as they're received by Election Day. Good for democracy, Jay? What do you think?
Well, you know, this question and issue gives me a little bit of a flashback to the court stealing the election for George W. Bush. In the limited case of North Carolina, and I say limited because there are 49 other states after all, they seem to be protecting the voting process. But even a broken clock is right twice a day. So I don't give them a heck of a lot of credit for that. They upheld a good law, and that's a good thing. But I believe the overall trend from the Supreme Court will be steadily to winnow away minority voting rights. That's their entire game. The backdrop to all of this is white panic. Whites see this country as getting more and more brown. And we all know in 20, 25 years, maybe 30 at the most, whites will be a minority in America, okay? And that shakes them deep in their bones. This is their country, they say. There will be so many folks of color that voter suppression might not work. A flood of brown people coming out, that's not something you can steer. That's why they need to control the courts and control our rights and dole them out like candy and take them back when they want to. The court makes rulings that last generations. That's where their heads are at. They want power without popularity. They look to the old model of South Africa, where a tiny handful of greedy whites controlled an entire nation of blacks. That's what we're looking at. I'm glad the folks in North Carolina will likely have their votes counted, but the Supreme Court is the last bastion, truly, of white supremacy, and that's why conservatives have fever dreams over it. Solomon, the court decision on North Carolina was indeed a good day for democracy. But truly, I'm not counting on many more of those days, those good days for democracy.
We'll see what happens, because I think, you've had Chief Justice John Roberts, who has turned out to be somebody who doesn't always go along with the conservative ideology on how he looks at cases. And I guess my question is, will there be others who are willing to, just look at each case on its merits, man? The one guy who has been consistently just bad for black people and anybody else who's not a white man is Clarence Thomas. He's been consistent. He's been consistent, Jay, selling us out, man, the whole time he's been in there.
Well, that's almost the only kind of compliment you can pay Clarence Thomas. He's been consistent. He's been consistently our enemy. And he was never qualified to be on the Supreme Court anyway. His last job was as a bureaucrat running the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. That's not the background for a Supreme Court justice. So they put him on there because I remember George Herbert Walker. We had just lost Thurgood Marshall, that great giant had passed, and we wanted a new black justice. George Bush said, "You want a black judge? I got a black judge for you." Out popped Clarence.
Uncle Clarence, Lord have mercy. So we'll see what happens with that. Of course, on the other side, we got to talk about the political fallout of the Walter Wallace shooting. So we're going to talk about that on the other side of the break with Jay McCalla. I'm Solomon Jones. We'll be right back.
Now, a traffic update
on WURD Radio.
Good morning. This report sponsored by CVS. A wet ride this morning as rain heavy at times moving through the area. Schuylkill Expressway westbound already busy from University to 30th Street eastbound. Not bad yet. Accident on the Blue Route 476 northbound just north of the Schuylkill Expressway. Watch for crews and restrictions there. Southbound 95 jamming Cotman down through Bridge through that work zone. Again, Betsy Ross through Girard. Northbound 95 moving fine. 55 northbound Deptford into 42 getting heavy there now. CVS pharmacists have a proprietary search tool that analyzes ways to help lower your prescription costs. Come in or call today to get a free prescription savings review at CVS. Savings vary. Not all patients eligible for savings. Ask pharmacists for details. For more traffic information, log on to SIGAlert.com. Jim Bachman with your Philadelphia area traffic.
This year has been unprecedented. From the COVID pandemic to nationwide protests addressing systemic racism and calling for criminal justice reform. For weeks, we've been reminding you to make your voice heard in this election, and now is the time to act. Voting is how we empower our communities, and this election day, we can make things happen for us instead of letting things happen to us. So use your power and make your plan to vote today. If you signed up to vote by mail, don't wait. Complete your ballot, put it in the small envelope and seal it. Then put it in a larger envelope and seal that too. Sign and date it. Then drop off your ballot at your county election office today. If you have not signed up to vote by mail, go to the polls on Tuesday, November 3rd. Make sure to confirm your polling location, and don't forget to wear a mask. Polling places are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Election Day. To find your county election office or polling location, visit votespa.com. Take your power to the polls and vote. Paid for by Power Interfaith.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you sick of trying to cut and style your own hair and the rest of your family? Well, McLean's Unisex Salon in Mount Airy is open for business. We've been a neighborhood institution for more than 50 years, with styles for men, women, and kids. We have new partitions and social distancing measures to keep everyone safe while keeping the welcoming feel you've come to expect from your neighborhood shop. Visit us online at mcleansunisex.com or call now to make an appointment, 215-844-9826.
The WURD Radio newsletter, keeping you informed, engaged, and connected. Sign up by visiting WURDradio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page and type your email address under Connect with Us. You'll receive the latest information on WURD Radio, messages from our president and CEO, Sarah Lomax Reese, exclusive articles and multimedia content, and resources. Stay informed with the WURD Radio newsletter.
I'm Philadelphia City Councilwoman Sherelle Parker, and this message is for the sisters. We wear a lot of hats. We're mothers, aunties and daughters, teachers, community leaders, and CEOs. We rise to the occasion every day. We're good at it too. And now, more than ever, we need to do what we do. Show up and show out this election. To organize, to make those calls and get out the vote, to stand up for our families and our communities, just like you do every single day, every single time. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are counting on us, and we know that we can count on them.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
Always Best Care is a great place to work. Flexibility,
leadership, purpose,
great benefits.
There's never a dull moment.
Diversity, inclusion, compasión.
We love our jobs. If you're looking for a great place to work, you can join our compassionate Team Green. You can apply online at teamgreenabc.com or call 267-909-9248.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Hello, this is James Harper Jr., Business Manager at Labor's Local 413 in Chester, PA. I'm here to remind all of the listeners of Labor's Live on WURD to make sure you, your family, and friends are registered to vote. We're at a pivotal time in our country's history where we have to make sure we bring common sense back into politics. We can no longer let hate, racism, and lies govern our country. We stand on the shoulders of kings and queens, warriors and activists that fought and were even murdered to give us the basic responsibility to exercise our right to register and vote. We dare not let them down.
Don't forget to tune into Labor's Live every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. on WURD, WURD.
This is not a fad for us. We will not resume our regular programming when things die down. We're not black to help our bottom line or because it's politically correct. We're not joining a fight. This has been our fight, our message, our people. Black lives have always mattered here. We are undeniably, indefatigably, unapologetically, permanently Black Talk Media. WURD. You're waking up with WURD, hosted by Solomon Jones. Good morning. Right now on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Good morning. This is Solomon Jones on 900 AM, 96.1 FM, WURD, and I want to welcome you back to Wake Up with WURD. Of course, we are talking with Jay McCalla. He is veteran political consultant, held senior positions in both the Rendell and Street administrations. His work has been published in the Philadelphia Inquirer, Philadelphia Magazine, as well as the Chestnut Hill Local. He brings deep knowledge to politics and does so from an African-American perspective. Jay, let's talk about what's happening with the Walter Wallace shooting, because the killing of Walter Wallace, who was holding a knife and experiencing a mental health crisis when he was shot by police, has resulted in a political puzzle just days before maybe the biggest election in our lifetimes. What have you seen from local and state government in response to yet another uprising around this shooting?
Man, oh man, oh man. Our local government officials seem to be doing everything but the right thing. The first thing I heard the other day from our black police commissioner was a call for state police, National Guard, and cops from surrounding counties to rush to Philadelphia. She's got 6,500 cops on her payroll, but she thought she needed more. It's almost sadistic. The cops cause a riot by killing a man who should have been tased. Then they bring in an army to crush the very riot they provoked. It's almost evil. Now, cops have told residents to stay inside. Restaurants were told to close at a curfew. Citywide has been imposed on everybody. All this repression took place in an instant, literally overnight, literally. Justice, on the other hand, is on a slow boat to China. The body cam videos should have been released yesterday. The 911 calls should have been released yesterday. The 2 killer cops should have been on suspension as of yesterday. They didn't drag their feet before flooding West Philly with guns and nightsticks, and they shouldn't drag their feet on accountability either. And let's be real. Before Commissioner Outlaw called in the National Guard and state police, she checked with Jim Kenney. She didn't do this on her own. He likes to hide behind his managing director. He fired Brian Abernathy for perceived mistakes he made. And I don't want him to hide behind Danielle Outlaw on this either. Kenney runs this town from top to bottom. Just as in the last riot where Kenney approved tear gas and rubber bullets, he approved this horrendous occupation of a black neighborhood. The mayor runs this town, and this is heavy-handed. It's just a heavy-handed operation. On the other hand of this, this evil little seesaw is John McNesby, the FOP boss, and he's been making videos encouraging his cops to be tough and telling them that America stands behind them. He's agitating, and he needs to shut his fat mouth, but Kenney isn't in a position to tell him that. He's not the man to do it. The whole thing is heartbreaking and infuriating at the same time. Black lives don't matter in Philly, to the cops anyway, and nobody in government really cares about changing that. They don't. Over the last 30 years, every police commissioner we've had has been black, with the exception of John Timoney. Every last one of them. Willie Williams, Sylvester Johnson, Charles Ramsey, Richard Ross, and now Danielle Outlaw. Putting a black face on a racist system is a dirty trick every mayor has pulled, even the black mayors. On city council, there's enough black power to chew up the police department and spit it out again. But that ain't going to happen either. Our elected officials don't have the stomach for reforming the police, so maybe we need to stop going to their fundraisers and putting their signs in our windows. Solomon, I mourn Mr. Wallace. I sympathize with the 30 or 40 brothers who've been locked up as a result of this. And frankly, I praise those brothers who keep agitating on the streets. Don't break anything, but keep agitating, keep the pressure on. That's the only way. Keep it on our black politicians and the white politicians, too. But we need to be in the streets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree that we need to be in the streets. I agree that we need to be protesting. Of course, I don't support looting, and I don't support tearing up other people's property. I don't do that. But, protest isn't supposed to be nice, and it isn't supposed to be calm, and it isn't supposed to be something that creates no disruption. You have to disrupt these systems in order to change them. And so, yes, we have to be protesting. Yes, we have to be holding people accountable. Yes, some folks got to be voted out. The one thing I would say is, by way of correction, is that the governor ordered in the National Guard. He's the person with the power to do that. And so that's what the governor did, not the police commissioner. But, you know, I hear you. I hear you. And I think that folk got to realize, man, that, you know, we need change and we need it immediately. The one thing that really keeps sticking out for me is that you got police in black neighborhoods who don't have tasers, Jay. They don't have tasers, and they talking about it's a budget issue. Why are they coming to this? Yeah, they said it's the budget. The budget, they don't have enough money to pay for all of the tasers they would need for all of the police. That's what the commissioner said in a news conference. And so my question is, why do you have these police in black neighborhoods, man, who don't have this non-lethal tool at their disposal, and they pulling out guns to deal with somebody who's dealing with a mental health crisis? That's crazy.
And she needs to, man, well, again, it's a Kenny problem. This year, we're spending $20 million to rehab the Cobbs Creek Parkway Golf Course. Now, there's a frivolous expense. That's one. So that $20 million, which we don't need to spend, I don't know how many blacks go out there and golf. God bless them if they do. But it's not a priority. Take that $20 million and put it in the tasers. She makes up the budget. The mayor approves it. Nobody cares to make people provide tasers for every cop. So they have a choice. I think the defense for these two cops is going to be the system. We weren't properly equipped. But if you saw the photo, and I know you did, of those two cops standing there with their feet spread apart, you know, in firing position, they were calm. They stood their ground and took this man down. They were not in a panic. They were not fleeing this man with a knife. He was about 10, 12 feet away from him. This didn't have to happen. And I don't accept her excuse of a budget issue. She's new in town. She had the clout to demand what she wanted out of the budget. You know?
Yeah, but city council approves the budget, though.
Yeah.
So that's a city council issue.
Yeah, but she testifies on a budget. You know, Tell me that's your priority. Tell me you don't want cops in neighborhoods who don't have choices, that can only kill. She's supposed to be, and she is really well educated, well trained, and experienced. But this has to be a priority, and she can't overlook it. It's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that not every cop has a body cam.
Right.
You know, if you're going to get behind police accountability, stand back from this. We got to kill this guy because, you know, we're maybe a little afraid. We're in a little bit of a panic. A police commissioner has to make sure her people are equipped. She can't permit these holes, but frankly, they're not her holes. They've been existing for years. You know, all the money in the police budget goes to overtime. We all know that the out of control overtime. The money goes into the pockets of the cops instead of into the equipment that would save our lives, and that's disgusting.
Well, let's talk very quickly about Donald Trump and Joe Biden. They're both denouncing the looting that's taken place in Philadelphia. How does the fallout from the shooting of Walter Wallace affect the candidates in the presidential race?
I'll tell you, this is the moment Biden has dreaded. A week before the election, a black man is shot dead, and he's got to take a stand. I've got a problem. He says no amount of anger justifies violence in the face of injustice. And I think he's wrong. He's saying blacks don't have the right to be absolutely fed up. We're not allowed to say we're as mad as heck and we're not going to take it anymore. He sounded sympathetic, Biden did, to mental health problems, but I didn't hear him say the phrase, two trigger-happy cops. That's the only thing that would make me happy. He's trying to attract Trump voters, but he doesn't get it. He doesn't get our anger, and few 77-year-old white guys will get it. So, you know, I'm voting for Biden no matter what. But I wish he had taken a better stand, a little more clear on justice. As far as Trump is concerned, this plays into his hands. This is the flagging away to the country saying, you know, the nation is burning down, still reelect me. That's going to be his fascist message. But I'm voting for Biden, even though his public comments disappointed me the other day.
All right. That is Jay McCalla. Jay McCalla, of course, held senior positions in both the Rendell and Street administrations. He brings deep knowledge to politics and does so from an African-American perspective. Jay, thanks so much.
Anytime.
All right. We're going to go to we are going to continue the show right here on WURD.
I'm Philadelphia City Councilwoman Sherelle Parker, and this message is for the sisters. We wear a lot of hats. We're mothers, aunties and daughters, teachers, community leaders, and CEOs. We rise to the occasion every day. We're good at it too. And now, more than ever, we need to do what we do. Show up and show out this election. To organize, to make those calls and get out the vote. To stand up for our families and our communities, just like you do every single day, every single time. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are counting on us, and we know that we can count on them.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
Just one more step. You got it.
You're doing great. This is the sound of a nationally ranked top rehabilitation hospital, home to the largest collection of robotics in the United States, where we continually exceed patient expectations. Because no injury is too severe or too minor for our care.
There you go.
This is the sound of success. Moss Rehab. Challenge accepted.
Remember when Trump defended neo-Nazis?
You also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
Or downplayed the coronavirus?
It's going to disappear one day. It's like a miracle.
It's time to fire politicians who failed us and elect leaders who will fight systemic racism, have a plan to beat the coronavirus, and will address bias in our healthcare system. This election, remember whose side Trump is on, not yours. Request a ballot now. Make a plan to vote. Our lives depend on it. Paid for by the NAACP.
What's up, everyone? I know you know the word, no, not the station, but this word, J-O-B, that is. And our friends at Amoroso's Baking Company are hiring right now. Amoroso's has been baking the delicious bread in our community for over 100 years, and they want you to join their team today. The old and the young love Amoroso's, and they are hiring right now. Check it out. They offer fair pay and provide health, dental, and prescription plans after 90 days employment. Call 856-754-0355 or visit amorososbaking.com for details.
Hello, my name is Hassan Bennett. I did 13 years in prison for a crime I didn't commit. Over-policing in our community has led to over 100 casualties like mine. It's time we, the people, take control of our future. And we do this on November 3rd by voting to make communities safer and the system fairer.
Paid for by Black Vote PA, which is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. www.theelectionisnow.com.
Millennials are known for many things, but did you know that they are currently on track to have worse mental and physical health than the generations that came before them? The Economy League of Greater Philadelphia is challenging our communities to change that with the Well City Challenge. This community-led competition puts the power in your hands to help shape how we address major health challenges across our region, with an emphasis on inclusion and collaboration. So if you care about the health of your community, bring them innovative ideas they need to turn this challenge into opportunities for the millennial generation. Visit economyleague.org to apply today for a chance to compete for $100,000 in prizes and investments. The Well City Challenge is presented by Independence Blue Cross.
The pandemic is not only putting everyone's health at risk, it's also impacted our jobs and retirement security. And it's disproportionately affecting African Americans, especially those 50 plus. That's why AARP Pennsylvania is fighting for your voice to be heard. If you haven't voted yet, now is the time to learn about your voting options and cast your ballot. We're working to make sure you can vote safely, whether you choose to vote from home or in person. And if you choose to vote by mail, make sure you return your ballot using both envelopes. Your ballot goes in the smaller envelope for secrecy, and that goes into the larger envelope for mailing. Also, don't forget to sign the voter declaration on the back. Your voice matters. Make sure it's heard. Go to aarp.org/PA votes to learn about your voting options and how to vote safely this election. Visit aarp.org/PA votes today. Paid for by AARP.
Lifting every voice till earth and heaven ring. This is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Black Talk Media.
Back by popular demand.
It's Wake Up with WURD, hosted by Solomon Jones. Right now on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Good morning. This is Solomon Jones on 900 AM, 96.1 FM, WURD. And I want to welcome you back to Wake Up with WURD. We are, of course, taking your calls at 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. That is the number that you can call to get in on the conversation right here at WURD Radio, 215-634-8065. You can also weigh in on Facebook at 4WURD. That's FORWURD, FORWURD, and let us know where you are on these various things we are talking about on this morning's show. Of course, the fallout from the Walter Wallace shooting continues, and we're talking about that this morning. Also talked with Kevin Mincy, an attorney, about protecting protesters' rights, and of course talking about the political consequences of this police shooting. One thing I want to make clear is in city government, the people who actually control the budget is city council. That's how the legislature works in any level of government, whether it's local, state, or federal. The legislature, which in Philadelphia is the city council, controls the budget. Various department heads come and can certainly ask for the amount of money they want, but ultimately city council approves the budget. Just wanted to make that clear. Give me a call, 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. That is the number that you can call to get in on the conversation right here at WURD Radio. Renee from West Oak Lane is on line one. Go ahead, Renee.
Yeah, good morning, Solomon.
Good morning.
I just want to say, how do black people call for help? When we call for help for police, it seems like we get killed. And most white people or other people, they can get decent, like, help, from the police, the law enforcement, without getting killed. I'm not saying that there's not some good cops, there are, but I want to get into the aspect of people looting. I want to get into this president with his mental issues with spreading racism and discrimination. Most of the people that support him have the same mindset, like the guy who sent the pipe bombs to the Democratic politicians, and the guy who ran over the lady at the protest and killed her, and the guy who killed the Jews in the synagogue. All of these are Trump supporters. When you have a president making statements saying like he can walk down the street and shoot somebody and get away with it, and you have a first lady wearing garments saying I don't care, it helped put people's mind in a don't care state. Some people are going to be destructive and going to loot and do destructive negative things. We need political change against discrimination, not just for black people, but for Jews, whites, Native Americans, the whole human race that's against racism. We need to vote this anti-human racist discriminating president out in his administration and other politicians and law enforcement with the same views. So that's just my opinion on issues.
All right. I want to thank you so much for your call this morning on WURD Radio. Of course, if you want to get in, it is 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. That is the number that you can call to get in on the conversation right here at WURD Radio. A. Malik Stewart says on Facebook, "Word family, we have a troll in our midst. I'm watching what's happening on the Facebook feed, and if that's the case, folk can get blocked out. You don't have no right? We're not the government. You don't have no right to come on here trolling our folks. So we will take care of that post haste, right? So Terry Lynn Davis Covington said, no sense of ownership. Phyllis Williams says, we have to learn to respect others even if we don't have much. And she is right about that as well. Let's go to Lucy Lou Sond, who says this. Good morning. I believe that Trump did have his Proud Boys here waiting for anything to kick off, and we fell right into the plan. So that's that. And Raphael Suleiman says, yes, that is it. You are dealing with people who have never had a business or property. They don't understand delayed gratification or the sacrifices that you made to get something. This is their opportunity to get something. They believe they have no future. There is a lot of hopelessness and despair out there. The pandemic has just made it worse. Let's go to the phone lines. Lamont from South Philly is on line one. Go ahead, Lamont.
Good morning. Good morning, Solomon.
Good morning, brother.
All I can say is it's a pleasure hearing you, and it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
I'm calling for, I think it's time that we clean out our city council, our state reps, even our federal representatives. I'm 63 years of age, lived in Philadelphia, and when we talk about change, you can see a monicum of change. However, I look at the same signs that Martin Luther King marched with, and I see the same signs, and I see the same semblance of events that's taking place. It's almost like that old saying, nothing new comes under the sun. And since nothing new comes under the sun, let's term limit our city council people. Let's look at the ones, the Democratic national people who voted to confirm some of these judges who are on these appellate courts. They didn't just get there just with Republicans. Democrats voted for them too. So we need to do something. In our city council, I don't expect to hear anything from them about police. Oh, they'll hold hearings. And the biggest sham was we'll create a community advisory during the police negotiations. The police go right to arbitration. So what good is a community advisory board when they'll just go right to arbitration, pick the arbitrator they want, and get whatever they want from the city? So it just doesn't seem to make any sense. And I hear the people come on radio, yes, I'm going to vote. What choice do you have? But at the same time, I look at some of our folks, and it's time we start naming them. We know who they are. It's time we start voting them out. Stop going to their dinners. Stop letting them come in, and stop treating them as if they're the kings of the community. And remind them, you work for me. Somehow or another, we misappropriated who does what for who. Sure, as a citizen, I'm responsible for things, but aren't you responsible? And stop telling me that we're overmatched in Harrisburg. We're overmatched everywhere. Isn't the art of negotiation is what you told us you can do in this city?
I hear you, man, and I hear your frustration, but I think what you're saying, and I'm going to put it in a nutshell, is that you got to hold people accountable. You come in, you say you're going to do this, you're going to do that. You don't do it, then you vote them out. I think it's real simple. But we have to learn to work together. We have to learn to organize. And we have to learn to have demands, right? Because power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has and it never will. And so you have to make sure that you know what it is that you want. And if you don't get it, then you hold people accountable. It's simple, but it's hard because we don't work together. We have to learn how to work together in order to get what we want. I want to thank you for your call. Let's go to Jay from West Philly on line 2. Go ahead, Jay.
Hey, good morning, Solomon. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good show.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we should come up with a multi-point system to take care of this disconnect that we have. I mean, for instance, we had 400 plus homicides, and the civic leadership for it to get to this point, it wasn't no major gathering, no major get together of the city government officials from the community to look at ways to stop this. There's we didn't hear about no major meeting of the civic heads to get together and look at solving this homicide problem. Looks like, so that's one point. The second point is, like, for instance, we have, like, the city business opportunities. Like, all the other communities are working, you know what I mean? When you see them digging the streets up, you see them building downtown, you see, so much construction that the unions have to get people from out of town. Instead of utilizing and putting us in the union ranks, they'd rather go to the other cities, Nebraska and Minnesota, and grab them union workers and come down here to fill all the work, because the local unions can't handle all this work. So this has been happening for 30 years, and particularly a lot of these construction jobs are city government-funded jobs that are coming off the backs of us, and we can't even get into that lucrative contracting and working trades opportunity. And it's been happening for a long time. Now, I can see if it was private money, but this is city money that's being spent that we're not even getting none of it, because you got a group of white males controlling the construction industry. Then you have the police. All right, now, why would you not want to carry a taser? If you have the choice to carry a taser and you chose not to, then that means you already got a deadly force mentality in your head. So that shouldn't even be happening in our community. You don't hear none of this stuff happening nowhere in the suburban areas and the rural areas. You don't hear nothing like this.
I want to thank you for your call, and I hear you, man. I hear your frustration, and I think we got to get to the root of it. The taser thing is beyond troubling. That we know that all of the officers in our department do not carry tasers. That's beyond troubling. And it's something that we have to get to the root of. So I hear you, man. Let's go to Sheila from Overbrook on line 3. Go ahead, Sheila.
Good morning, Solomon. I don't even know where to start, actually, but I'll start here. I remember when Jamie Gaudier won the district, and she was interviewed by the gentleman who used to cover city council on Thursdays. What's his name?
Vincent Thompson.
Vincent, right.
Mm-hmm.
And she made a statement, and he said, we're going to hold you to that. Can we hold you to that? She said that she would only do voluntarily 3 terms, because after that, it's time to freshen up. And that's all I want to say about that. I really think that there has to, your caller before last said that. I couldn't believe it, because I've been thinking that all morning listening to your show. When you said it, I was like, you just said what I'm thinking. There has to be a limit on the amount of time that city council members are allowed to hold their spots, because after a point, you're no longer an activist, you become a politician. The other thing I wanted to say is that these police officers literally took a gun to a knife fight. Why would you do that? Why would you go, this man is obvious. His mother is pleading. I mean, we all seen it on TV. We've heard it. I don't have to play it out at all. Right. Why would you take a gun, 2 guns, to a knife fight? That man could have been slowed down. He could have been wrestled to the... There is any number of ways that situation could have been handled. And these police officers, those police officers, have seen what has happened across this nation when every one of these, when Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, they knew what was going to happen. Or maybe I should say they didn't care. They did not think it all the way through. And so, yeah, Martin Luther King did say, I was only 7 years old when he said it, that a riot is the language of the unheard. Yeah. And I'm 64 years old now, and it's still the same. Have a great day.
All right. I want to thank you so much for your call this morning on WURD. Let's go to Ed from Germantown on line 4. Go ahead, Ed.
Hey, how you doing, Solomon?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, my thing is this. I agree with just about everything a lot of people say. You need term limits on city council. Because what I've been saying for the last 70 years is the same stuff. You get these politicians in, they don't do nothing for you, but they want you to keep voting for them. And as far as that shooting, I saw what happened, but I'll tell you this. They're going to keep doing this because we got no leadership down there in city council. If them guys didn't have a taser, they knew a long time ago they didn't have it. They never tried to do anything. That lady's going to be in the scapegoat for Mayor Kenny, like that guy said, and she's going to get all the blame. It's just a sad situation in this city. And I don't really hear any of these black politicians speaking up for what happened. They're strangely quiet. You need to get rid of them, the state representatives, all of them, because they've been there too long. And they don't do anything. They become comfortable, and this is why we got what we got. We need people with term limits now, so they don't have to be in there a long time. If they don't do the thing, they got to go. That's my comment.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for your comment this morning on WURD. And for those who are watching on Facebook, you see me smiling because in order for city council to have term limits, I believe they would have to vote to have term limits, right? That's not going to happen. And so for all of those who want term limits, guess what? Organize and vote folks out. That's the term limit. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's, you know, I hear y'all talk about, you know, we need to have term limits, we need to have term limits, but you the term limit. We are the term limit, right? We vote people out. I mean, that's how this thing works. That's the term limit. You can't really expect that they're going to put legislation on the table and vote to have term limits on themselves, right? You really can't, you really don't really expect them to do that, right? So you the term limit. We are the term limit. If you want somebody out, organize and get them out. That's what we have to do. That's the term limit. Let's go to Olanian from Nicetown on line 1. Go ahead, Olanian.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I just woke up and I heard you say we don't work together. And I'd like to know, how can we change that and solve that problem?
I think we have to trust each other. And you know, it's funny, we were talking about this the other night on the Man Up PHL mentoring session. And it really is about us learning to trust one another. And we're going to be talking about that with the brother who was on that mentoring session with us. Brother Reginald is going to be joining us in just a few minutes. But it really does come down to that. It comes down to us learning how to trust each other. I think white supremacy has put us in a position where we don't trust other black folks. And in order to work together, there has to be some trust, Olanian. There has to be that.
Okay, now how can we solve it? How can we force ourselves or make ourselves trust each other?
You just said it. You have to force yourself to do it. You have to force yourself to work with some black folks, give some black folks a chance. One of the things that really broke my heart one time, and it still sticks with me. This was years ago. Somebody called, a black woman called and said, I've never had a good experience with a black business. I don't go to black businesses. And it broke my heart because what she did was she allowed one or two bad experiences to make her paint everybody with the same broad brush. Well, you ain't no better than the racists who do that to us. And we, I think, sometimes adopt those racist mindsets against each other because we see ourselves as inferior. We have to break out of that mindset in order to give each other a chance and teach ourselves to work together in order to achieve what we want.
And while doing that, drop that N-word.
Yeah, I mean, you can drop the N-word. That's a word. I think it's more a mindset. When you change your mindset, then you drop that word. You understand? And I want to thank you for your call this morning on WURD. You got to change your mindset. We have to change our mindset. On the other side is Reginald Howard of Black Men Heal, talking about brothers and mental health in the wake of the Walter Wallace tragedy. I'm Solomon Jones. We'll be right back.
We've all heard people say this election is the most important of our lifetime. Let's remember why that's true. Under the Trump presidency, racism has found a tragic new normal, emboldened by a president who has demonstrated disrespect and disregard for our communities while embracing and protecting white supremacists. While the coronavirus was taking our family members from us, Donald Trump deceived the nation by withholding information that could have saved lives. He protected himself instead of protecting us. Our economy is in shambles, our children's education jeopardized, and the Trump administration is in court right now trying to take away our health care. This has to end. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are the leaders we need to chart a path toward opportunity, justice, and healing. From affordable health care to quality education and jobs, there's only one choice to move us forward. Vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Paid for by Black PAC and Priorities USA Action, blackpac.com and prioritiesUSAAction.org, which are responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
There's a pressing need to strengthen pathways to better jobs in communities of color. That's why Bank of America is investing $1 billion to advance racial equality and economic opportunity.
I'm Jim Dever, Greater Philadelphia Market President for Bank of America. We've partnered with Coded by Kids to connect people to new skills and employment opportunities. It's just one way we're taking action in Greater Philadelphia right now.
Bank of America N.A., member FDIC, equal credit opportunity lender.
I'm Philadelphia City Councilwoman Sherelle Parker, and this message is for the sisters. We wear a lot of hats. We're mothers, aunties and daughters, teachers, community leaders, and CEOs. We rise to the occasion every day. We're good at it too. And now, more than ever, we need to do what we do. Show up and show out this election. To organize, to make those calls and get out the vote. To stand up for our families and our communities, just like you do every single day, every single time. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are counting on us, and we know that we can count on them.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
Everyone has a different journey to their vote, but we all take the same steps. If you want to vote, register by October 19th. If you want to vote by mail, apply now and mail your ballot back as early as possible, before November 3rd. Or bring it to a satellite election office. If you want to vote in person, go to your polling location on November 3rd. However you want to vote, we'll help you find the way. Visit PhiladelphiaVotes.com.
The pandemic is not only putting everyone's health at risk, it's also impacted our jobs and retirement security. And it's disproportionately affecting African Americans, especially those 50 plus. That's why AARP Pennsylvania is fighting for your voice to be heard. If you haven't voted yet, now is the time to learn about your voting options and cast your ballot. We're working to make sure you can vote safely, whether you choose to vote from home or in person. And if you choose to vote by mail, make sure you return your ballot using both envelopes. Your ballot goes in the smaller envelope for secrecy, and that goes into the larger envelope for mailing. Also, don't forget to sign the voter declaration on the back. Your voice matters. Make sure it's heard. Go to aarp.org/PA-votes to learn about your voting options and how to vote safely this election. Visit aarp.org/PA-votes today. Paid for by AARP.
Dietz & Watson has been making premium meats and artisan cheeses for over 80 years. And when it comes to stacking sandwiches and party platters, they've got something for everyone in the family, like maple honey turkey breast, American cheese, buffalo chicken, and more. So get to your local deli and taste 4 generations of family recipes. With Dietz & Watson on the table, you'll have everyone coming back for seconds and thirds. Dietz & Watson, it's a family thing since 1939.
According to the radical left, Kathy Barnett isn't supposed to exist, let alone be a candidate for United States Congress. See, Kathy Barnett is a black woman and a conservative. She spent 10 years in the Armed Forces Reserves. Kathy doesn't fit the victimhood mentality the left is selling. She grew up poor, and despite the odds against her, she built a good life. She loves America, and that's why she's running for Congress. Kathy Barnett not only exists, she lives the American dream.
I'm Kathy Barnett, and I approve this message.
Backed by popular demand.
It's Wake Up with Word, hosted by Solomon Jones. Right now on WURD Radio,
96.1 FM
and 900 AM WURD.
Good morning. This is Solomon Jones on 900 AM, 96.1 FM, WURD. As we await our next guest, Reginald Howard, we are going to take your calls at 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. That is the number that you can call to get in on the conversation right here at WURD Radio. You can also weigh in on Facebook at onWURD. That's FORWURD, FORWURD. That's where you can weigh in and let us know where you are on these various things we are talking about on this morning's show. So we got a couple of comments from Facebook that we're going to get to in just a few minutes. But for now, we are going to talk with our guest, who's now on the line, Reginald Howard of Black Men Heal. He's here to talk about brothers and mental health in the wake of the Walter Wallace tragedy. Reginald, good morning, brother.
Good morning, brother. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing okay. You know, the weather's a little down, but we got to keep striving every day.
Yeah, the weather's crazy, but I planted some grass seeds. You know, I'm obsessed with my grass, man. You just don't know. So I planted some grass seeds. I'm glad to see them because it's saving me on my water bill.
It's a win-win situation.
That's right. That's right. So let's talk about brothers healing and mental health. You're from an organization called Black Men Heal. I met you the other night talking to you on the Man Up PHL mentoring session, man, and I thought a lot of what you had to say was so powerful. What is Black Men Heal, and how did you get involved in it?
Black Men Heal is a preventative service where we give free therapy to men of color. And how it got started was our founder, who are licensed trained clinicians, was treating men within their practices, and they had the idea of like, man, we need more brothers in these therapeutic offices, and maybe if we offer it for free, they'll be able to come. And when they started it, they didn't realize how much impact it was about to have, and they just wanted to do it for them, offering it for free. And then they was like, I wonder if other licensed therapists of color would want to offer free as well. And so we started to build the organization out like in that manner. And that was before I got involved. I got involved because I was the first cohort. So I was in that first round of, all right, let's see what these men that want to offer that want to receive the therapy. And even then, the waiting list was out this world. But that was the first time I ever been in therapy because they broke down the 3 barriers of stigma. Like, it was so much stigma with coming into the therapeutic office. It was free, so the cost wasn't a barrier. And then they make you up with the professional of color and making sure it fits your needs to be treated. And so I was able to, get with an older guy, George, shout out to George, and I went in there like, hey, I don't need this, da-da-da-da. Like, I could do a lot of these things on my own. And he was like, hey, brother, I'm with you. I understand. You're very wise, but let's talk this out. Everything has a beginning. And so he started educating me, and I say all that to say they matched me up with somebody that fit my need. Because if I got anybody young, they probably would have been like, all right, this guy he's just coming at me. But if it was someone older, I'm going to respect my elders so I can listen. And so that's how it got started, was through a need. And then how I got involved was once I went through the therapy process, I'm like, man, I wish it would be more brothers that, would come. And Black Men Heal also encourages their clients to become advocates. So I went out and started my podcast, went on speaking about it and talking in schools and things like that. And that's how the ball and the cycle continues.
When you talk about Black men and therapy, it's something a lot of brothers, shy away from because, one of our issues, I think, culturally is that we don't necessarily want to ask for help. How do you break down that barrier of brothers who might need help but don't want to ask for it?
I think we talked about that too in the Man Up mentoring session. It's from brothers like myself or other brothers, because I'm not an anomaly. It's other brothers who actually decide to make the commitment and go for the help. Them going back and say, hey, I came from the community you came from. Hey, I look like you. Hey, it's relatable information. Because usually when we see these commercials, they're, no offense, they're soccer moms. They're like white women soccer moms. So when we see depression anxiety and all of those things on, we don't feel relatable to that information. But if you see a brother with dreads or a dark-skinned brother or a brother that's brown-skinned or a brother that's been through some of the similar situations that you've been through, and they come and talk to you like, hey, this is what I went through in my therapy process, and it's like it made it more relatable, and it makes it more relatable, because that's what inspired me to start doing this. When I started hearing black men talk about therapy, I'm like, wait, I had 2 suicide attempts? Wait, that was depression? That's what anxiety? Let me go see if and unpack some of this stuff. So I think it just takes more black men or men of color becoming more vulnerable and sharing their emotions so that they can encourage the next generation or people around them to, want to do that process as well.
Mm-hmm. We're talking with Reginald Howard of Black Men Heal about black men and mental health in the wake of the Walter Wallace tragedy. How do you know when you get to the point where you need to talk to somebody, where you need therapy?
It's a great question, and I think it's more. It's just like having we try to separate the two, but it's similar. When we have a physical ailment, we go to the doctor. Like we go like, this is bothering me, or you'll feel it, and we know some things are bothering us, but sometimes we dismiss it, and then because of the dismission, it starts to get worse and worse and worse. Now, with the same thing with mental health, when you'll feel it, like you'll know you're not feeling right, and we need to address it and go do something about it. Again, I knew the feeling, or I felt the feeling of depression, or I felt the feeling of anxiety, but I didn't have a name for it. And once I went in therapy, it's like, oh, that's what I was feeling. I just knew I didn't feel good. I didn't feel in my right normal state. I didn't feel good. But once I went through and learned the language that when it came with mental health, then I was able to be like, oh, all right, now that all makes sense. But I think we all feel it. We know, and black people in general, brothers, we've been through one of the most traumatic situations ever with therapy. I think we all need some type of therapy, honestly, if I'm being honest. We all have mental health. We all need some type of just checking in, just like a physical doctor. Everybody's not all overweight, but you still want to be able to check in on your weight or where you're at nutrition-wise or anything like that. I think it's the same thing with mental health. You got to check in where you're at on the mental health spectrum.
Yeah. And so, all of this for me springs from what I saw with Walter Wallace, brother, obviously going through a mental health crisis. How do you stop it before it gets to the point of crisis?
They have CPR training. They have all these different trainings that you get. I think everyone should be trained in some type of first aid mental health training. The Department of Behavioral Health Services, they offer them. I don't know, with COVID it impacted a lot, but they offer different first aid trainings with adults, with young children, and just all these different trainings. And I think because in that moment and when we seeing Brother Walter and what he's going through, there's no person that's first aid training just to help out. They're not around to help him in that moment. And I think it's just like a skill set. Like I don't know when I'm gonna ever have to use CPR or anybody, but it was just a good skill set to have. And I just think in our community, because it's so in the black community, it's such a stigma that we're not trained or equipped to handle these situations. That's not to say that the training isn't available, but we're not equipped to handle it. And when we called for help, what we thought was help in that moment, it was like there's not even enough resources allocated to equip with that. They sent the cops for a mental health crisis. And that wasn't what was needed in that moment.
And so how do we, in our communities, in our families, because we all know people who, have serious mental health issues, and then all of us have minor mental health issues. So what can we do within our community, within our families, on our block, in order to help each other before it gets to the point where somebody's calling the wrong people who are going to do more harm than good?
The simplest form of that my answer to that is what I tell the students when I go talk to them is we all shouldn't feel alone in a room full of people. And the only reason why we feel alone in the room is because everybody's trying to mask their pain and mask their trauma and to mask the things they went through, that they are going through, to present themselves as feeling well. And going into our family, there are so many things that happen within our family where it's like what happens in my house stays in my house, or we're not allowed to talk about that situation, or you know what I mean? It's all these different stigmas and different things that are law, but they are hurting and not healing. And so to answer your question directly, is because we just got to open the space for it. Like, can we talk about the uncle that we not allowed to talk about? Can I talk about as a parent how you hurt me as a child? Can I talk about as having a stepfather that I didn't like and how it affected me growing up? And these are not my stories. These are just different stories that happen in our households or in our community. Can I talk about the friend around the corner that he died and I was just with him, and there's no space for me to just grieve and talk about it? Like, there's so many things that we as a community have just create the space. And I don't think we hold space for our brothers and people that look like us. And that's what we try to do at Black Man Hill, is to hold space for people, because to give them that opportunity to grieve, to share emotions, to say what they're going through, because it's not many for them.
We're talking with Reginald Howard from Black Men Hill. What would you say to a brother who, might feel like he needs help, but he doesn't know how to reach out to get it? What would you say to him?
First, again, I guess I'm biased, but I'm always say with Black Men Hill, we host a King's Corner every week, 7 p.m. Sundays Eastern, to just create that space for brothers to talk, just to be open. I know it's a good brother in Philly that Phil Roundtree, he holds a You Good Man space where he let brothers talk. So there's a bunch of things going on where there are spaces available. It's if you want to take that initiative, because people are going to reach out to you as well. Like, if we are here, like this, I'm so happy to be and grateful to be on this platform, because this is you offering, like, hey, there are organizations, there are people out there that they willing to let you go. Just know we're here. You're not alone. You can come here and you can talk. And to that brother, I would say you got to make that step of, are you willing to be vulnerable in that space? Because there are spaces, you just got to be willing to be vulnerable in them.
That's Reginald Howard from Black Men Heal. How do people get in touch with you and your organization?
Black Men Hill everywhere. We just type it in on Google. You'll find us on social media, the website. We actually doing our first virtual fundraiser manifestation 11/11, and we just manifesting men's mental health. And so we're here. Whenever anybody wants to reach out, send us an email, send us a DM. Like, we're here in King's Corner every week, 7 p.m. You'll catch me in there with a guest facilitator talking about something. Right now, for this Sunday, we're talking about colon cancer and the like of Chadwick Boseman, unfortunately, it does. So, again, we're providing those safe spaces of, like, because I know I won't get my colon checked, and I'm like, man, I got to, be vulnerable enough to say why I don't want to get it checked. I feel awkward, whatever. But that's just different spaces that we open. So just type in Black Men Hill, we'll pop up.
All right. That's Reginald Howard. Brother, I want to thank you so much, man, for joining us this morning on WURD.
I appreciate you, and thank you for the opportunity, brother.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. That's Reginald Howard from Black Men Heal. You can just type it in, Black Men Heal, and find out where you can go in order to avail yourself of these free mental health services that are so needed in our community. We're going to go to break. On the other side, we're going to take your calls at 215-634-8065 right after we do What's Trending. I'm Solomon Jones. We'll be right back.
I'm Philadelphia City Councilwoman Sherelle Parker, and this message is for the sisters. We wear a lot of hats. We're mothers, aunties and daughters, teachers, community leaders, and CEOs. We rise to the occasion every day. We're good at it too. And now, more than ever, we need to do what we do. Show up and show out this election. To organize, to make those calls and get out the vote. To stand up for our families and our communities, just like you do every single day, every single time. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are counting on us, and we know that we can count on them.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
The pandemic is not only putting everyone's health at risk, it's also impacted our jobs and retirement security. And it's disproportionately affecting African Americans, especially those 50 plus. That's why AARP Pennsylvania is fighting for your voice to be heard. If you haven't voted yet, now is the time to learn about your voting options and cast your ballot. We're working to make sure you can vote safely, whether you choose to vote from home or in person. And if you choose to vote by mail, make sure you return your ballot using both envelopes. Your ballot goes in the smaller envelope for secrecy, and that goes into the larger envelope for mailing. Also, don't forget to sign the voter declaration on the back. Your voice matters. Make sure it's heard. Go to aarp.org/PA votes to learn about your voting options and how to vote safely this election. Visit aarp.org/PA votes today. Paid for by AARP.
COVID-19 impacted a lot of things this year, including regular vaccination appointments. Vaccines help protect you and everyone around you, especially during flu season. Schedule an appointment with your healthcare provider today to make sure you and your children are vaccinated. Vaccines keep us safe, and they work. Skip the flu this year. Get your vaccination today. Let's stay protected together. For more information, visit health.pa.gov. Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
Hello, I'm former Mayor John Street.
And I'm Mayor Street's son, Senator Sharif Street.
You know, I've been out here fighting for what's right for a long, long time, but I can't think of an election more important than the one that's happening right now.
We all know we have to vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, but we also have a couple of hometown heroes that we need to elect.
Nina Ahmad served as the City of Philadelphia Deputy Mayor, and it would be a welcome change to have a strong woman of color go to Harrisburg to fight for all of us.
We also have working class hero John Kane running for state senate. He's a blue-collar guy ready to fight for better paying jobs and accessible health care. I'd love to have John Kane join me in the state senate.
This election is just too important. So when you go out, vote for Joe and Kamala.
Don't forget to vote for Nina Ahmad for Auditor General and John Kane for State Senator.
This message is paid for by the Friends of Sharif Street.
Hi, I'm Tobias Harris. We've been hashtagging and protesting, but this November, we can show the system what time it is. We've been victims of police brutality, stop and frisk, and other forms of harassment. On November 3rd, we take our power back. This year, everything changes. We can vote to end stop and frisk and put police accountability in the hands of the people. It's on us. On November 3rd, vote to make our communities safer and our systems fairer.
Paid for by Black Vote PA, which is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. www.theelectionisnow.com.
Join Nick Taliaferro this Thursday at 5 p.m. for a very special conversation with Matt McGill and Kimberly Egoin of WVON Radio in Chicago on the racial unrest in Chicago and Philadelphia. That's this Thursday at 5 p.m. Simulcast on WURD Radio and WVON in Chicago. It's Wake Up with WURD, hosted by Solomon Jones.
Good morning.
Right now on WURD Radio.
96.1 FM.
And 900 AM WURD. All circuits are busy. Here's what's trending.
Yo, that's crazy.
On Wake Up with WURD.
Former NBA star Shaquille O'Neal shocked friends and fans earlier this month when he admitted that he voted for the first time ever in the 2020 presidential election. I don't have any excuses, but I didn't have time, O'Neal said. That's a bad excuse, but this year I made time. O'Neal is now partnering with former First Lady Michelle Obama's When We All Vote initiative. Story number 2, Chrissy Teigen opened up about her heartbreaking pregnancy loss in a powerful essay published on Medium. The tear-jerking essay describes the birth, the moment of goodbye, the plans to put the baby's ashes into the soil of a tree at their home, and her grief in the aftermath of the loss. She encouraged others to share their stories as well. And story number 3, Breonna Taylor's mother says the case that Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron presented to the grand jury was flawed and biased, and she's pushing for a do-over. Tamika Palmer's filed legal documents obtained by TMZ, seeking to have an independent prosecutor give a brand new grand jury an unbiased presentation of the evidence, and that is what's trending. You can, of course, give us a call at 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. Let us know where you are on these various things we are talking about on this morning's show. 215-634-8065. You can also weigh in on Facebook at FORWURD at FORWURD. That's FORWURD. And let us know where you are in these various things we are talking about on this morning show. Of course, the Walter Wallace case is front and center. As the city went to a curfew last night, it was lifted at 6 a.m. This morning. The National Guard has been called in by the governor to Philadelphia, and so we'll see what that looks like. I just remember the last time with the George Floyd protests that the National Guard came in, and it was surreal. I mean, that's the only word I have for it. It looked like I was looking at someplace else, right? Where you had the National Guard surrounding City Hall. You had young people preparing to protest. You had police officers lined up on horses on the Broad Street side of the MSB. You had white police officers there taking pictures with the Rizzo statue when it was still there. You had a burn mark in the middle of the street from where a police car had been burned the day before. I mean, it's just, it's an ugly thing to see, but change is not easy, and we need change. We can't just stand by and continue to see our folks killed in situations where other folks are not. We cannot stand here and watch this. And I think one of the things that makes me angriest about it is that you have the union, which is separate and distinct from the department, right? But you have the union, the police union, supporting this kind of violence toward black folks, and supporting a president who ran on racism, continues to run on racism, supports white supremacy, and they lining up with him. These the people we supposed to trust to come in our community and police our community. I mean, it's, as I have said many times, to the police and to their recruits and to their cadets, we are not looking for anything special. What we're looking for is equal treatment, the same treatment that you would give to someone else, someone who does not look like me, someone who is white. I'm looking for that same treatment, nothing special, the same treatment that other folks get. That's what we deserve and demand in our communities. Let's go to Gail from the Northeast on line 1. Go ahead, Gail.
Good morning, Solomon.
Good morning.
Thank you for that commentary that Jay had. It was on point, but for that young man with the mental health, because that is one of the major reasons a lot of eruptions happen, because of the mental health and no outlets, or men, and I'll even say women, but men, because they feel they don't have that outlet that everybody else has, and a lot of times the pressure just explodes. And I want to say that when you have it, the sad part is I watched Commissioner Outlaw, when she was on, in front of the cameras and stating about all this information that the police don't have, but yet they make money. The regular police officer can make into the thousands with court calls, going to court or overtime, but you don't have the money. This is insane for you to even stand there and say they don't. And this is the system. People have to realize this is the system. This is systemic, because it has never been changed. And when you have people like our FOP president that stands there and pushes all this rhetoric and confusion, and then you have people that come up and say, well, we shouldn't be, no, we know we shouldn't be doing this, but the pain and hopelessness is so entrenched that sometimes this is how people feel, that their only outlet. And we have to actually call out those people that are coming in and stirring this, because the president has said he put Philadelphia on the map for this type of behavior to happen. I thank you for giving me a chance to speak.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for your call this morning on WURD. If you want to get in, it's 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. That's the number you can call to get in on the conversation right here at WURD radio. I guess my question is this. Well, first, let me say this and just say it again, that city council approves the budget. Each department head comes before city council, and I notice I worked in city council for a couple of years as a legislative aide to Councilman Wilson Good Jr. Each department head comes to city council, right? And they say, you know, what it is that they need, what it is that they want. The mayor puts together a budget, right, based on what those department heads need, want, etc. And then city council approves the budget. And so if I am, say, I don't know, the commissioner of recreation, and I say I need $50 million and city council approves 40, well, then that's what I'm going to get, regardless of what I asked for. I want y'all to understand how government works, right? And understand that it's not necessarily just up to the police commissioner. It's not up to her at all, as a matter of fact, in terms of what she actually gets for a budget. I just need y'all to know that, right? That's up to city council. And the deep thing for me is this, that, you know, you got folk defund the police. All right. So defund the police this time around meant we're going to take $14 million out of the police department budget, so all the police officers do not have tasers. Now, is it up to the department on how they prioritize the money that they have? Yes. And they are accountable for that. But you can't, and on the one hand, be like defund the police, and then on the other hand, be like, why they don't have no money for tasers. I'm just saying. 215-634-8065 is the number that you can call to get in on the conversation right here at WURD Radio. 215-634-8065. That is 215-634-8065. Here's what I think. I think that whatever money they get, some of it needs to be reallocated towards having social workers who can go with them and handle some of these disputes that really are more about social work than crime. You need to reallocate some of that money to make sure that you have mental health workers, behavioral health specialists on every shift in every district who can actually go out to some of these calls along with the officers to handle and de-escalate mental health calls. I think you need to reallocate some of the money to make sure that every officer has a taser, every officer has a body camera, every officer has non-lethal alternatives to use for these calls. That's what I think. I think you got to reallocate the funding to what is needed rather than having this pseudo-military type of policing that we have evolved to or devolved to in America. Like, why we got to have like a military? No, you need folk who can handle the actual problems that people are going through, from mental health to social issues to everything else. Derek from North Philly is on line one. Go ahead, Derek.
Good morning, Brother Solomon. Love, peace, blessings, and prosperity.
Same to you.
Thank you, brother. Solomon, I think that we need to exhibit a little bit of common sense here. It seems like Philadelphia has dropped the ball in the case of Walter Wallace, and I think that the police commissioner should step up more and take some responsibility. It seems like when she is in front of the camera, she's reading off a piece of paper. Personally, I don't have anything against her, but these are tough times in Philly, and we need leadership better than what I believe she's demonstrating since she's gotten the job. That being said, I feel that Philadelphia dropped the ball in the sense that the George Floyd case, now we have something in my mind, I feel that's on those lines. It just seems like it's just common sense to say that we want the citizens to feel safe and protected, and at the same time, we want to be honored. I don't know if you're aware of that. I believe that the FOP is suing the city for the last riot because they felt that the city didn't stand beside them. So it's a whole lot of corruption that's taking place during this time of this election to try to distract everyone. But I think it's just common sense that we don't have to receive another police shooting and there's no body cameras. I thought that we was going to have that matter resolved after the George Floyd and after the rioting here that took place in Philly. So I don't have all the answers, but I know that if we do things in the spirit of love, peace, blessings, and prosperity for the city of Philadelphia, I think we can move forward.
I want to thank you so much for your call this morning on WURD, and I appreciate it. I'm looking for a Facebook comment from Lisa Gothney, who said that, where were there expandable batons? Where were there other non-lethal instruments and tools that they have on their belt? Why wasn't there a supervisor at the scene when they knew that there had been other calls there earlier? Like, where were all of those things procedurally? And I know she knows that, given her profession. And so I appreciate that comment. I'm sorry I couldn't find it, and I hope that I got the gist of it and the spirit of it. But, these are questions that folks who understand law enforcement are asking. You understand what I'm saying? And so we have to ask those questions as well, and we have to be real, and we have to be honest, and know that there are some things that need to change. There are some things that need to happen. There has to be funding in order for some of those things to happen, and folk have to be held accountable, from the mayor to the police commissioner to city council and everybody else around these issues, because we cannot continue to watch our people die. I want to thank everybody who joined us on today's show, including all of our guests: attorney Kevin Mincy, political commentator Jay McCalla, and Reginald Howard of Black Men Heal. And now for producer Jordan, who's doing a fantastic job sitting in for Kawesa Mathis and everyone here at WURD Radio. I am your host, Solomon Jones, saying stay tuned for Reality Check and City Council Live with Charles Ellison, and tune in tomorrow at 7 for more Wake Up with Word. Peace.